Two screens, two different views. That's what we're all about. Welcome to Dual Screen Radio, where listening is good.
This is Shane R. Monroe.
This is Chris Angel.
And welcome to the first episode of Dual Screen Radio for the 2007 year. We're very excited to be here. A lot of you thought we weren't going to make it, but you were wrong.
The rumors of Shane dropping dead from an overdose are very
drastically.
Yeah.
You get the idea. I completely lost the word I was looking for. Drastically over-exaggerated.
Exaggerate, that's it.
My God, I hope it's not going to be like this the whole show. We're definitely going to be screwed. Okay, well, let's talk.
But yes, we're alive.
Yeah, we're alive.
We're
still here. Hopefully you caught our special edition that came out last week. We finally, we had an episode almost in the can in December. And we wanted to do kind of a, year-end recap special. What were the best games of 2006? And unfortunately, we realized that due to our weird schedules, that the news segment of Dual Screen Radio gets really old really, really fast. In other words, if we don't record and release like the same week, like 90% of our news is so old that it's almost not worth going over. So we're thinking to ourselves, maybe instead we'll start posting a lot more news on the website and give two views on that. Chris and I will both, if I post a news item, Chris will be able to go in and comment on it. If he posts a news item, I can comment on it. That way, immediately between shows, some instant gratification, you guys can hop up there and immediately get some feedback on the latest news. And at the same time, that keeps us from, holding a show because we don't have the news done or it gets stale. And the show was running too long anyway for us to be able to reasonably get shows done in a timely manner. So we're
especially with our schedules.
Our schedule is horrible. Yeah. It's just going to get worse. So I figure if we cut the show in half, we remove the news segment, we start posting a lot more news on the site. I'm hoping that we can keep getting the shows out every couple of weeks and not have to worry about the news getting
Plus,
stale.
Plus, it streamlines the show in general. We stick to the things that
I think that's important.
More people enjoy. And, well, we probably would think something like the Touch and Go News, which I originally thought would be a cool little, sideway. I really liked your bits and bytes, obviously. I think everybody loves bits and bytes from Retro Gaming Radio, and I thought it would be kind of a neat little idea to kind of take a little bit of something like that and make it DS-oriented with Touch and Go, but it's just a little nuts. Like you said, most of the news is out of date, whereas a lot of the bits and bytes stuff, that's stuff that's just kind of general stuff,
Yeah, it's good anytime.
Right, exactly. I mean, anytime
you want to hear about Ben Heck's new portable. It's not like you need to know now.
Right. It's not like that week you have to check it out.
Sometimes some of our news, like that Final Fantasy III sale that they had, where, if you print the online coupon, you got half price.
Yeah, it was like, $20?
Yeah, that was insane. I went and got it for that. Not a problem. But at the same time, if we had put that in the news, it would have been worthless.
Because by the time we got the show out, the sale would have been over.
But if we would have posted, I think we did end up posting it on the news on DSR.com.
Oh, yeah.
DualScreenRadio.com. Had to get it in there within the first 5 minutes of the show, folks. People are complaining that we don't get that
nice.
The website posted enough inside the show, so.
We aren't hawking ourselves enough.
Anyway, so that's sort of where we're going with it. So we're going to drop Touch and Go. We're still going to keep the mailbag when we get a piece of interesting information. We're still going to talk about the website. We're still going to give you quality reviews. And we're still going to give you some sort of an editorial. And if there's a good story time, of course, that comes around, well, no brainer there. I mean, we're going to give you story time theater when we have something that's really worthy of story time theater. I don't want to just stuff something in there. No. Storytime theater's best when it's something that's real. Like some kid's mom telling him that his Game Boy Advance got a virus from being plugged into the wall. That's good storytime theater. Too bad we already covered that one, but. Yeah, I know.
Mommy, the elephants have taken over my Game Boy.
God. People kill me. Anyway, so that's sort of where we're going. So this show, of course, is going to be obviously shorter. Well, we do have good stuff for you. We're finally going to get around to reviewing Final Fantasy III. And we've been itching to talk about it. Those of you who know me from the other side of Retro Gaming Radio know that I'm no Final Fantasy fan, but you'll be probably pleasantly surprised to find out that I actually liked Final Fantasy III. And I'll tell you why. Coming up soon.
Even I'm
on Dual
interested
Screen
in
Radio.
hearing this. I mean, even I'm not a big fan of the series, but
I'll
in the
give you a little.
meantime, I've actually
I'll give you a little
finished the game,
philosophy.
so this should be pretty interesting to hear.
Yeah. So we're gonna for our editorial this month, we're gonna sit and talk. It's 2007, right? Brand new year, fresh year. The DS and the Nintendo Wii owned Christmas. There are like 23 million of these DSs running around, some ungodly figure like that. 1 in every 2 Japanese people own a DS. It's starting to get totally crazy. I mean, we're reaching POG level here.
Wasn't it like, POG level. Wasn't it like something like 9.5 million sold in the U.S.?
Something like that.
Something
Yeah, and they're
so far?
expecting, 23 million sold by the end of the year. I mean, it's
They actually
crazy.
had shortages. I mean,
Yeah.
they just can't get these things pumped out fast enough, especially in Japan, where it's still, I mean, ever since the DS Lite came out, I think everything is just sleeker. It's even smaller. I guess it's more socially viable. The people.
Yeah. Which is
carry
unfortunate that it took an iPod-looking device to make people
around.
want it, but
That's more or less the point, right?
unfortunately, okay, that's fine. I mean, we need the sheep. We need sheep to buy products so that we can continue to get the kind of quality support that we've come to expect from Nintendo.
Oh, and let me tell you, it's not stopping anytime soon.
No.
Looking at some of these, it's just the first quarter releases that we're going to be getting. The one thing that's I'm not really too sure about is there's really not too many AAA Nintendo first-party titles coming out, so far.
Yeah.
But if it's anything to go by what we dealt with last year, most of this stuff didn't show its face until May. Remember when we were watching the E3 conferences together?
Yeah.
And we got the Nintendo one, and it was just out of nowhere. Boom, 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 all this new DS software
Yeah.
that nobody had any inkling of an idea was even coming down the pipe, that they just kind of blew out at E3.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's going to happen right now, probably. I'm thinking maybe by the time we get to E3, what is it, in May?
Well, it's not E3 anymore, of course. It's something else.
Well, no.
Yeah, but
the big show where they have the 3 conferences and they show off their games. We're going to probably see some new stuff that we didn't know about right now. Maybe we'll finally see like the DS version of Fire Emblem. How cool would that be? I mean, maybe not for you, but I'm just talking. How my answer.
yeah, in general.
Maybe like F-Zero. A lot of these games that Nintendo has been, or I know everybody's still wondering what's going on with Metroid, a proper 2D. Side-scrolling adventure Metroid for the Nintendo DS. I mean, it would be perfect on that system. Having both screens at once would really add to that game, I think. I mean, and even using the DS's Mucho 2D abilities would really push it over the top.
Oh, absolutely.
So maybe we'll see something come out of that. I mean, I think most of the stuff that they showed at E3 ended up coming out by now, with the exception of something like Diddy Kong, which is going to be coming out very shortly. If anything, if these release dates are right, we're going to be seeing within the next couple of weeks of recording.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Diddy Kong, you got to figure it this way. What do we got coming first party from Nintendo the first quarter? We've got Diddy Kong Racing, and I think, isn't Legend of Zelda?
Hotel
Legend
Dusk.
Of Zelda still,
Hotel Dusk is Nintendo.
slated for first quarter, or did it get pushed again?
No, that's way off.
No.
I don't think that's until fall at this point.
Well, look at Hotel Dusk and which looks absolutely awesome. It's gotten some incredible reviews. We're going to review it as soon as possible because that's the sort of game I think a lot of people are waiting for. And of course, Diddy Kong, dude, which is going to be more than enough for me for a while. I've still got tons of games to play. That's the thing I think people forget. We got some people on the forum that it's like, well, look at next quarter, it sucks. It's like, dude, it doesn't matter if next quarter sucks.
See, that's the thing. I mean, you have all these titles. They're all worried. I mean, where are all the games? Come on, what is this? But there's so many games that I'm wondering if everybody actually went back and played. I still have games on my stack here that I still have to get to. I haven't even gotten to the original Phoenix Wright.
I know. It's like there's tons of stuff. I haven't, I got to finish Lost in Blue still. I mean, there's tons of stuff to do.
Final Fantasy
I haven't
3,
finished Final Fantasy 3. I've got tons of stuff to do.
And arguably, you could say the Wii's been distracting.
Well, yeah, unfortunately,
us as well,
the Wii has been sucking up a lot of my free time. But
that's why I was so determined to finish Final Fantasy 3. I got that on release day
that
back
was
in
smart.
November, and we had been wanting we had been wanting to review that game probably since the
Yeah.
end of November, and it just never worked out because we never really got a show out. And we were hoping to have incorporated that review in the last little special edition that we did, but we're going to be hopefully getting it done this show.
God
Sounds
willing.
like we are. But I was so adamant to get that Final Fantasy III finished by the time Christmas rolled around, because I knew the Wii was coming, and with the Wii, you know, Zelda was coming, Twilight Princess, and I knew I was going to want to get into that game. And see, my problem is if I get to a game and somehow get distracted about halfway through it, especially something like Final Fantasy or Zelda, something where you have a lot going on, a lot of RPG or things where you have to remember so many things to complete a part of the game, and I come back to it, you know, a couple weeks or a month later, I'm going to be totally clueless. I'm going to totally forget what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm going to lose track of everything that I wanted to do, and I'm going to be totally just not wanting to play the game anymore.
Oh, I know.
That happened to me back in the original PlayStation. I remember I was playing Soul Reaver. Do you remember that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really into that game. I had a lot of fun with that. And I think I sat and I must put hours upon hours into it. And there was a week there where I just didn't play it. And I came back to it, and I was stuck in this room, and I forgot what I was supposed to be doing, and that was the end of it. You know, I never went back and finished it.
Harsh.
Yeah, I just get distracted by other games, and there's just too much to play.
There really is. And that's something, you know, it's been a long time since I've said that. You know, I've got too many games to play.
Oh, it's crazy, yeah.
You know, good
and
games.
then the DS especially it's just picking up so full steam right now.
Yeah, I think we're looking, you know, there was a lot of talk early in the DS's life that it was, you know, it wasn't going to make it and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, proofs of the pudding, it's over. There's been a victor crowned. Now let's move forward and knock off all this, oh, you know, there's not really a lot of stuff coming out this quarter. It's like, you know what? That's just announced stuff, man. You know, if you need more than 5 games a month, there's something wrong. Obviously, you have way too much money. Because I can't afford 5 games a month. So I'm glad.
You figure $30 a game, that's $150.
That's $150
right?
bucks a month. I don't have that kind of free cash to drop on DS games. So give me one good release a month. And I'm looking at the schedule here. And I'm thinking, yeah, I got Hotel Dusk this month. I've got Diddy Kong next month. Month after that, Phoenix Wright. I've got that. I've got, you know, Panzer Tactics is coming out, which is supposed to be really good.
I'm actually interested in checking out. I missed it on the original Game Boy Advance version, Lunar Nights, which is a sequel to. Oh my God, I lost the game in my head.
Yeah, isn't that the one that you didn't like that came out?
No, I never played it. It's the one where you need the sunlight. You know,
Boktai or...
Yeah, that's it, Boktai.
Boktai,
It was some weird name, and I couldn't remember it offhand.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
The sun, it's like the sun is in your hands or something like that. This is a sequel to it, and it looks like it's not going to have I don't think it's going to have any kind of sensory device on the cartridge or anything, but it's going to use, I think, the clock, the built-in clock of the DS to kind of figure out what is the time of day and if the sun's out and whatnot, you know. And that looks kind of interesting. It's from Konami, and it's from the guy who did the Metal Gear series. So it's kind of an offshoot of that. But some of the screenshots look pretty cool for it. It looks like a neat little adventure game. And then Winning Eleven's coming out.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure if I'm going to be all over that or not.
Yeah. And sometime, hopefully this year, we'll actually see the Ultimate Brain and Ultimate Card games come out.
Yeah, right. That's a joke. I think they're listed here as March 1st, but weren't they listed as March 1st in 2005 as well?
Yeah. Our own database has them listed in June, late June, which is probably a lot more possible than March. But I might have to call Telegames one time, record the call for the show, and say, hey, so how many years is it going to take to get that Ultimate Card games out?
Yeah, what's going on with that?
My wife's nagging me.
It's like the DS version of Duke Nukem Forever, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. You'll get the DS version of it before the PC version. But yeah, there's a port of Rayman Raving Rabbids coming to the DS. I'm not sure. Well, you know, that's going to translate over to the DS. I mean, the Wii version of it's so damn good. I don't know. Yeah. I'd like to think that they could do something cool with it, but.
I mean, have we really seen any screenshots for that? I mean, is it going to be pretty much all mini games, or is it going to be? I thought I saw some that made it look like a typical 2D Rayman side scroller.
That would suck.
Yeah,
I don't
want mini games.
I mean, I want the arcade mini games myself, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but see, that's funny. A lot of Rayman fans hated that. You know,
Really?
Yeah, because it's totally against what
Rayman
was about.
is, yeah.
It's supposed to be, your typical little mascot running around jumping kind of game.
Yeah, but you got to love these little rabbits, though. The rabbits kick major butt.
Oh, they're funny.
Yeah.
The thing is, with the Nintendo stuff, a lot of people are having this theory going around where you're not seeing as many first-party AAA titles from Nintendo because they're putting all their resources into the Wii. And people are afraid they're going to drop the DS, which I think is crazy. But
oh, that's crazy talk.
Right off the bat here in the first 3 months, we have the already mentioned Hotel Dusk, Diddy Kong Racing, and if you go down a little bit, back into March here, we got the Wario Master of the Skies coming out.
Yeah, I think Hotel Dusk is going to be probably the quarter's best game. Maybe Diddy Kong. It's hard to say. I mean, they obviously feed two very different audiences, but I'm looking forward to both of them. Those are two must-buyers for me.
Yeah, and then Diddy Kong's got the Wi-Fi, which is cool.
Yeah.
I mean, just like Mario Kart. Hopefully they've revamped that a little bit.
I'm not hopeful, but I'm hopeful, but
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I hope they maybe incorporated a little bit of what like Clubhouse Games has going on in it.
Yeah, Clubhouse is like the definitive Wi-Fi game.
They really did a great job with that. I mean, they allow you just to continue on without waiting for other players. You can add people at your whim. I think that was the coolest feature of it.
Yeah, I think they did fantastic with that. I wish Nintendo would come around and do more of that, but
yeah,
wish in one hand, pal.
Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff coming out here. You got another Nintendo, actually the other big Nintendo game, and I don't even know it's a big one, but it's from Nintendo's Custom Robo Arena, which I believe.
I never played that game on the GameCube. Did you ever play that?
No, I don't know. It didn't really look real interesting. It looked kind of, I don't know. Maybe if I was a kid, I'd probably be into it. It's just something about it just didn't gel with me.
I guess I'm just not big into like the whole robotic.
See, I like robot stuff.
Robot control.
Yeah, I like robots and everything, and I used to love Voltron and Transformers Z and all that, but I don't know. This doesn't really interest me whatsoever.
I don't know. It could be a good game, and they don't usually make first-party titles that suck. So I'll probably take a look at it, but.
Yeah, most of Nintendo's first-party stuff's been pretty decent. I mean, even a couple of the Pokémon games. I mean, for crying out loud, we've
I know.
Kind of
you
enjoyed.
need to play Pokémon Ranger, dude. I mean, come on.
Yeah. What's interesting is there's a game coming out from Atlas. It's called Izuna: Legend of the Unemployed Ninja.
Yeah, does that look good or what?
Now, what's interesting is, see, the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games are actually created by a company who's made those type of games for years.
Yeah.
I forget the actual name of them. I mean, I think it might be sort of a Japanese thing, but they're all random dungeons, kind of like a NetHack or a Rogue thing,
Yeah.
And
those people who've been computing for less than more than 5 years, what NetHack and Rogue are.
So Nintendo obviously got a hold of them to say, hey, why could you do something like that, but infuse Pokemon? It's basically a Pokemon skin, But anyway, this Izuna: Legend of the Unemployed Ninja, it looks like to be the same type of game, but only without the Pokemon and more into what you're used to seeing in that series of games they put out. They've been stuck in Japan for a long time now, but the writing looks pretty quirky and everything, and Atlas usually puts out decent stuff, so that might be worth taking an eye on. And
well, you do know that. Pokemon Pearl and Diamond have a street date of 4/22.
Yeah, nice.
So that I think will pretty much make up for all of the other lack of first-party titles because we know how those sold over in Japan. I don't think we're going to have any problem.
No, not at all. And I see right off the bat here one game that I know my wife is dying to play is a Theme Park DS, which so far the screenshots have looked really impressive for it.
I'm telling you, I'm drooling for Theme Park. I played so much Roller Coaster Tycoon. Hey, what are you doing over there, dude?
I'm sorry, I had some headphone issues here. Continue on.
It sounds like you're scratching your crotch or something over there. I was going to say, dude, you got a special gel for that stuff. No problem. There's all sorts of good stuff. I mean, I went over to GameStop and I have them print me out what's actually in their system coming up for the next 6 or 7 months, and they'll do that for you guys. By the way, if you go to GameStop and say, hey, can you print me out a release list for Nintendo DS.
Oh, sure.
Give you a list.
I've actually gone there on a couple occasions where they've offered it to me. I didn't even have to ask. You know, I'll buy a game and, you know, it'll be like, hey, would you like a list here? I can print it out for you. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, no problem. I mean, I don't know how legit or real they are, but at least it kind of give you an idea of what's coming.
Yeah,
you know?
Basically, from what I understand, what they have, this list comprises what's actually in their system and confirmed to be shipping. But that doesn't necessarily mean the date's right. Now, if you go to the website and search for their coming soon, which is what we do a lot of the time, they show a lot of guesswork in there. In other words, placeholders in their system and things like that. So, but what you get at the store is actually probably the most accurate that anybody's going to get on a Nintendo DS release list. So, and I'm looking at this list. Back to theme park. I don't want to jump off a theme park, but for anybody who's played Roller Coaster Tycoon, this looks like the portable version of Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, the screenshots look fantastic.
They look fantastic.
It looks like they might have gotten it right. I mean, in terms of the touch screen and everything.
They better. Dude, if I have to go through Zoo Tycoon,
another Zoo Tycoon debacle,
I'm going to start going, Columbine on these, because it's just making me crazy. Oh, speaking of which, not speaking of Columbine, but making me crazy. I just can't see that game ever coming out. There's like 2 different card games coming out, both Marvel and SNK versus Capcom. I mean, what's that about? I mean, I understand the trading card scenario. I mean, that sounds really cool, but why would you release both of them at the exact same time?
Well, no, I mean, first of all, the 2 different companies.
Right.
But the thing is, the biggie that everybody's looking at for is the SNK versus Capcom card fighters, because that game actually came out. It's been out before. It was out on the Neo Geo Pocket.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, and was probably one of the big games for that system.
Okay.
It was supposed to. I mean, even if you look at your recent issue of Retro Gamer.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe it wasn't so recent, but it was within the last year or so when they redid the magazine. They had that big Neo Geo Pocket spread, and all they did was talk about how wonderful it was. And I remember when it had come out at the time, and I'm not sure what other system it came out on. I think it was. I almost want to say there was a PlayStation part of it, but I'm not positive. But I know a lot of people seem to be really looking forward to that game.
Mm.
You know, it's like Street Fighter, but with cards. You know, it's like a Magic of the Gathering kind of thing.
Yeah, see, now explain that to me. Why don't we have Magic the Gathering on the DS?
I have no idea. You know, I'm not really interested in Magic the Gathering as a card game. You know, I couldn't go to the comic store or whatnot and sit and play it. I just don't know what it is. Maybe
Magic
if I was
the
young.
Gathering game would begin in
If I was
5 minutes in the back room. You know?
If I was like 15 or something, I'd probably be all over it because I love the whole fantasy thing and everything. But I mean, nowadays I can't get into that. But
dude, I just don't live in a basement with my mom. I don't think I could pass, muster being, 37 years old.
But I think the whole concept of it is really cool. I mean, you have like just a deck of cards and maybe a couple of dice or something. You know, you don't have to take out huge maps. It's not like Dungeons and Dragons back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Hey, listen to this. This is crazy. Do you know who is a huge fan of Magic the Gathering? The electronic version? My wife.
The electronic version?
Really? The PC version.
You mean the PC?
Oh, my God, dude, I could not pry her off. Did you see that Family Guy where Lois was, like, holding onto the slot machine, and he's, like, trying to pull her off, and her eyes are all glazed over, and she won't let go of the slot machine? Dude, that's exactly the way my wife was with Magic the Gathering. You know, you'd walk in and be like, hey, honey, it's time for dinner. Yeah.
You'll see the thing.
What are we having for dinner? Yeah.
That's funny.
The kids are on fire. Yeah. You know. And I'm telling you, if I got a DS version of Magic the Gathering,
I'd try it out.
I'd never see my wife again.
I was going to say though, I would try that out definitely. I would give it a shot.
I kind of got into it. I mean, it's fun, but the problem is, and again, this goes back to the people who can't stand playing games alone. Magic the Gathering is really a social type thing, and while you can play against a computer, that's cool. But Magic the Gathering, without being able to trade cards and play against somebody else on Wi-Fi, would be. Well,
see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
You would have to have the Wi-Fi.
You do that. Oh,
definitely.
Oh my God. I'll never see my wife again. Our baby will go hungry.
I don't understand why they're not doing it. It'd be almost like those Korean people who, get caught up in the massive online RPGs.
Yeah.
And they neglect their lives to the point where they don't eat themselves.
And they
just die at the keyboard.
That's too funny. Oh man, but I mean,
it's almost like why aren't they making this game? It's crazy.
Well, I bet if these two games sell,
the barest essentials.
I bet if these two games sell. I mean, I don't know what Wizard of the Coast is doing these days, but they need to get on board and get a DS version of that.
Yeah,
they had a Game Boy Advance version of it, I think, which really blew. See, part of the problem is people are trying to wrap these stories around it, like that Yu-Gi-Oh stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Supposedly got the exact same card mechanics. Well, not the exact same, but pretty close. But, dude, you have to go through this big storyline to actually play the game. It's like if you want to play a quick game of, of cards.
Wait a minute. Now, was it you or was it your wife or what? Who did you say was into Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something? Who got caught up?
My wife was.
You say somebody
wanted to get caught up into it, but it was gay. I mean, you had to run around and.
She obviously likes
anything with cards,
card
dude.
things.
She's totally hooked on solitaire inside a clubhouse.
That's
games
funny.
Right now.
Clubhouse, yeah. Well, I got the wife every night is playing mahjong. She falls asleep to mahjong. It's cool. But I've actually been playing a lot of Sudoku and Brain Age. I've been going back and playing some of them. Some of them are getting so difficult. I mean, I went through and blew through a bunch of them originally when I first got the game, but I kind of put it aside. I got burned out. Now I'm coming back to it. I mean, it's got plenty of puzzles. I mean, I just now got to the second page of the basic levels. So
it starts getting crazy. I mean, basically, you come up and you have 3 numbers on the screen. You're going, what the hell?
That's crazy. I don't think I could do that.
I can't figure it out from 3 numbers. You're killing me.
I suck. And it doesn't give you there's no hint thing.
There's no hint.
And of course, I have to play where I have to have it indicate if I made a mistake too.
Me too.
I got to play it like that. And I got to the point where I was so anal that if I made a mistake, I'd restart the game because I wanted to try to get the fastest clear time.
Dude, that's exactly me too, dude. I'm 3/4 of the way through the thing, make a mistake, and I
forget. Gotta start over. And I'm trying to remember. Okay, where did I have that? Okay, and I'm trying to fill in the blanks as much as I can.
That's where having a digital camera comes in handy. You can just snap a shot of the puzzle and just start filling in where you made the mistake.
It was really sad though. I mean, because every time you make a mistake, it adds automatically 20 minutes to your overall time.
That's unfair, man.
Yeah, so.
That's
I mean,
unfair.
I was finishing, even though it would only take me maybe 10 minutes to finish an entire level of Sudoku, if I made a mistake, ended up, I would get like 40 or, whatever. So, it's ridiculous.
Crazy talk.
So, anyway, I'm looking through here. We got Medio's Disney Magic. That's coming out.
I'm sorry. I'm still interested in it, dude. I know I shouldn't be. I know I should be pissed they didn't put Wi-Fi in it. But
I'm not sure if I like
kind of
the whole, I mean, what would you call that? The vertical orientation?
Yeah, where they change it to like book style.
Yeah, like Brain Age style.
The only thing that makes that more cool is the fact that you can have taller Medios columns.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the reasons they did it.
I think that will dramatically help the game mechanics itself. But I don't know, man.
The whole left screen is completely wasted now. It's got some Disney artwork.
Yeah, but you know what? The top screen was wasted in the original Medios. What did you have? You have a planet up there with some Medios flying at it. Come on.
It had the score, and it would sometimes give you a preview of what your opponent was doing. So I don't know.
I think they still do that. I think they still do that in the Disney version.
Yeah, you're right.
I think they do. It's okay. You can find reasons to hate it, but
I'm just trying to. The whole Disney thing. I'm not a big huge Disney freak.
You know what's funny? I like some of the things that Disney's done, but I don't like Disney. It's sort of like the whole Windows XP and Microsoft thing for me.
Oh, well, I love all the old Disney
I hate
movies.
Disney as a company, but dude, Lion King,
right.
I'm such a whore for Lion King, dude. I can't help it. Lion King owns my ass, and they've got a Lion King screen in there. They've got a bunch of their old IPs in there. It's like, yeah.
See, I love all the old Disney stuff. I love Sleeping Beauty.
Well, that's back when they weren't,
all that stuff.
Cutthroat whores,
cool. In the mid '80s is when I think they started.
They started sliding downhill quick.
Mid '80s. Now all their movies are dancing animals, and I mean it's really.
I'm really depressed with the quality of children's programming these days.
The other last week we were flipping through TV, and I know this is totally off topic, but
sorry.
We were looking at Hercules from Disney was on the Disney Channel. And I had never seen it, but the art style was just, I don't understand where they stopped actually trying to create normal human beings.
When they started doing all that weird real edged cartooning.
Kind of like Atlantis.
Yeah, where it's like they purposely make everything like squared off.
I just don't understand why going away from the whole realistic look that they used to have. I mean, remember when I think they used to even kind of do like an early version of mocap.
Well, they call it rotoscoping.
To get some of the dancing.
Yeah.
Rotoscoping, that was it. Yeah. I mean, something like, even Sleeping Beauty or Snow White, or they used to have realistic looking humans. Even something like Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid. I think they're probably the last two. I guess A Hunchback of Notre Dame. I don't know. I've never seen it, but everything's just gotten way too crazy. I mean, Hercules looked really strange, and the art style overall was just odd.
Mulan
I
started
understand
that.
trying to do something different.
Mulan was like the first one where it's like, why is everybody like made out of squares?
Mm-hmm. Well, I know something like Atlantis. There was the artist. They had the artist who actually created Hellboy. He did the preliminary design work for a lot of the characters. And you can see his art style hardcore in the characterizations. They're like more cartoony versions of what he would do in a comic book. He had that always hard-edged, squared-off fingertips, and it seems like Disney has kept that.
I just don't like it.
And
it's not for me.
Yeah, I don't like. I'm not a big fan of the cartoony version of it. The comic book style of it was really nice. Though. It's all blacks and it's very interesting artwork, but it just doesn't translate right to a cartoon.
I don't know. Enough of our philosophy on cartooning and animation.
But even in regular cartoons nowadays, you don't see it. I mean, remember Thundar and even the Godzilla cartoon, even the human beings look like human beings. Nowadays, everybody looks ridiculous.
Dude, let me tell you, one more thing, and then I swear to God, we'll get off the cartoons.
Yeah.
I went and saw Night at the Museum
this
last
my
weekend.
Apologies.
And that's a good movie, by the way. If anybody's wondering whether or not the movie was good or not, it was great. But they had that captive audience crap at the beginning where they show you ads and all this crap before the movie now. It's not enough that they just keep a slideshow going.
Yeah. I know, where you get the ads and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even a slideshow anymore. Now they have like full animated ads.
It's like flash animation or something.
Dude, it makes me mental. But anyway, so they had this thing for some gay-ass Nickelodeon, or no, not Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network show.
It's a Cartoon Network.
Called something about my monkeys, my gym partner or something. God. Dude, I sat through that with my mouth hanging open. First of all, stupidest clip ever. I mean, it wasn't funny. It wasn't edgy. There was nothing even remotely interesting about it. And my wife looks at me and goes, the cartooning sucks. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, look at it. It's horrible. I mean, you know how bad South Park looks? It makes South Park look like a Don Bluth animation.
It's almost like they're forcing a particular style in there just for the sake of trying to do a style. But the problem is it has no... I can't even really explain it.
I can't explain it, but I'll tell you,
maybe.
There's no soul into it.
Yeah, it's soul, that's it. I mean, as primitive as South Park is, there's a reason for that. They did that on purpose.
It was purposefully done.
I mean, and it works. But then you get some of these guys that are just so over the top that it's almost like it's being forced onto you.
Yeah, and we're getting... let's tie that in. Let's tie that in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these forced animation things are what's making it to our DS. This last Avatar and all these Cartoon Network launches, all of these are making it.
Or even the latest Castlevania games.
I don't know. Good point.
I know you haven't really played it as much as I have.
No, not really.
I mean, I got to, one of the main characters in Castlevania in the series, one of the big enemies has always been Death. And I got to tell you, the Death in the latest Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, it almost looks like a Fisher-Price version of Skeletor.
Nice. I'll get you, He-Man.
Yeah, I'll give you cupcakes while you do it. It's so stupid looking. I mean, he looks ridiculous. I mean, he's not scary. He almost looks like the arch enemy for Strawberry Shortcake or something, Damn. It's bad, dude. I mean, I was like, what is this crap?
Wow, man, that's too bad.
Granted, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't get into I know for a while there the paintings, there was all this painting and artwork done by a Japanese artist, for Castlevania.
Right.
Very strange looking artwork, but I could still appreciate it. It had that little bit of a strange beauty to it, and you could tell it was a lot of work to sit there and paint this artwork. And now it's like they gave it to Joe Bob intern in the back to whip up some generic cartoon characters for this series. There's like as you said, no soul in this game.
Yeah,
And I guess
don't
they're
get
trying
that.
to attract younger kids, and I don't understand it.
I think it's sad that they have to attract younger kids.
I was already a kid when I was playing the stupid game when it had serious artwork,
Right.
you know, so what's the point? I mean, it was one of the first NES games I had gotten, and, you know, the front artwork of that was I don't know how the Japanese artwork looked, but it was a serious kind of painting, and I thought it looked cool. I like the more realistic look.
I mean, are
I don't
kids
want
just
the cartoony look.
just less demanding these days? Is that
I don't know,
is that what
but
the
I'll tell you
problem
what,
is?
man. I used to love the more serious, realistic artwork. I mean,
I miss it.
I never used to really play Dungeons and Dragons, but I used to love buying all the Dungeons and Dragons stuff just to sit through and
artwork was
look
great.
at the amazing artwork, you know. And nowadays, it's almost like everything's being cartooned,
Overly cartooned.
and it's just something that I'm not. Even as a kid, I would be like, whatever. I mean, I really like the whole series artwork. It's almost like it doesn't seem. It's I guess it's cheaper to produce. I don't.
It's got to be. There's got to be some reason.
I don't understand. But the whole angle of saying, well, we're doing this to attract a different sort of audience, you know, for the series. You know, we want kids to get involved with Castlevania, and it's like, I don't know. I was, like I said, I was already a kid when I was playing Castlevania, so I don't see what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I mean, it's the gameplay itself. I guess they're trying to infuse a little bit of something different into it. I don't know. I'm waiting for them to do it with Resident Evil next. Yeah.
Dude, if they monkey with Resident Evil,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's going to be hell to pay. That's all I can say.
Cell shaded Resident Evil.
Oh, jeez. Paper Evil. Paper Resident Evil.
Super Paper Evil.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Okay.
Anyway.
Well, anyway, so let's see. What else is coming up? I mean, Lost in Blue 2, by the way, is out in March, and I'm telling you, I'm totally down
I know
with
you're
that.
dying for that.
You won't see me for a month.
Yeah.
I'm so stoked. What a great game.
Yeah. There's, needless to say, there's a limitless amount of games coming out just in the next 3 months. Now, while these are obviously not all hits, I mean, right off the bat here, we just found out recently that Hardcore Pool, has been renamed Underground Pool. You know, if you looked at the box art, it's pretty funny. They took the women that looked kind of like, you know, it was a little gratuitous almost, like, what's going on in this picture?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
They're missing from the picture now. It's just a dude, you know, playing pool. And
Why do people got to do that?
I don't know how good the game is. I mean, I don't even know who this company is. It's UFO. I mean, but there's going to be some stinkers involved here. I'm not saying that's a stinker necessarily, but I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm looking at it on the fence. Let's put it that way. You know, it's certainly not going to be something like Diddy Kong Racing, which, you know, I think is going to sell like hotcakes. I mean, you know, there's people that love that series. I mean, one of our buddies online here, Gary, who I haven't really talked to in a little while, actually. I remember he was totally against the DS early on.
Right, yeah,
Remember that?
Yeah.
And then when the E3 conference came around, they talked about Diddy Kong, and it's like, oh my God, I got to get a DS. So
yeah. It's amazing how one game.
He loved Diddy Kong. I mean, he hated Mario Kart, but he loved Diddy Kong. And
What's
I guess
that about?
Well, I mean, I think Diddy Kong. You know, you were flying around in airplanes or something, weren't you? You had the little airplanes you were racing in. Also, it was a little bit of a mixture from just go karts.
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah, I only played it I think for a weekend. I rented it, but it had a little more. It wasn't as monotonous, I guess.
Dude, I still play
way.
Mario Kart.
Yeah,
Screw monotony, man. I love Mario Kart.
Yeah. But you know, hey, there's certainly not going to be any shortage of DS games.
Oh, not at all.
Anytime soon. Now, whether Nintendo isn't going to focus on the DS as much as the Wii, I hope not. I mean, right now, the DS is still my system. I mean, as much as I'm liking the Wii, the DS is still something that the whole portable aspect crossed with, you know, just an overall decent package of, you know, you get the Wi-Fi, the microphone, and the graphics are totally acceptable.
Yeah,
so,
we've got some good stuff coming up. I don't think there's anything to worry about.
We'll see what happens.
And again, you know, hey, if you're, you know, we have threads going on in our message forums like mad, talking about games that, you know, recommended games based on other games that you like. You know, come take a look. I mean, or ask questions. You know, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what to get. Maybe they got a DS for Christmas. You guys have missed like a year and a half of some of the greatest games ever. And if you look forward instead of back, you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Why even sit there and say, oh, wait a minute, there's not enough coming out that I want, when I'm sure there's plenty of titles that have come out in the past year that you may have
there's
missed
titles
out
that we've
on.
missed out on.
Even,
we're still going back and revisiting some of them.
And I'm not talking the big heavy-duty games like New Super Mario Brothers, but I'm talking about something that you may have to dig a little deeper for. Like something like
Trauma Center.
Or Contact from Atlas, which I wasn't a real big fan of, but I can see its fans, and there's a lot of little titles that you may have missed out on, or Deep Labyrinth.
Yeah, Deep Labyrinth. There's tons of stuff.
But yeah, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to put out, and that's why we ended up doing that little special edition show, because maybe hopefully that'll give somebody some ideas for people who might have picked up a DS this Christmas. And it sounds like a lot of people managed to get DSs this Christmas, considering the shortages. It may help people push them in the right direction as to what to get. And I was already joking at how I couldn't believe I actually recommended something like Aragon, for the DS under the action adventure category.
I know, isn't that crazy? Next thing you know, you'll be telling people to pre-order High School Musical for the DS.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Dude, I can't believe that's going to be a video game.
Well,
I don't know.
Looking at some of the news items, there's some cool stuff coming out. We've already talked about it in the forum a little bit, but Nintendo's releasing Picross for the DS, which I can't wait to get. I'm really excited. I really hope this makes it to the U.S. If not, I'm gonna have to import it because there's really no Japanese learning curve involved. It's almost like a Sudoku in reverse. Where you get numbers already, but then you got to fill in the empty spots. And I was a big fan of that on the Game Boy, Mario Picross. And it could be that the fact that Mario was involved maybe lured me in a little bit, but the game was a lot of fun. So I'm hoping that it comes out in America. I really hope. I have a feeling it's not, because I'm sure it sold like total crap on the Game Boy.
I don't know, dude. If they package it up as one of those touch generation, if they do
touch
that,
generation,
dude,
it's crazy not to. $20.
I'd buy
throw
it
it in there.
$20.
It's probably got at least 100 and something puzzles, and it's really nice because even in the old Game Boy one, which is perfectly acceptable. You don't need any huge graphics for this game. It plays fantastic. It ends up where you fill in the blocks based on the numbers. And it's a little hard to explain. It's kind of one of those games you have to play and have somebody show you, really. But you would form a picture out of it. And it's one of the reasons I think I liked Guru, whatever, Logic Champ on.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. You hooked me up.
Yeah,
with
it was
that.
a Japanese import for the Game Boy Advance, and that's a lot of fun. It's kind of an offshoot to what you can do in Picross. And the original Game Boy version was nice because it had a little tutorial that kind of helped you through the ropes and taught you how to do certain little things and everything. It was really nice, well done.
Yeah.
But there's also a figure skating game. I'd sent you over there.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. The last screenshot looks like Michael Jackson's figure skating.
Yeah, I see that. It's great.
Doesn't it look like Michael Jackson?
It almost looks like my Michael Jackson me that I made for
me.
the week.
Yeah, I love that, dude.
Did I send that over to you?
You did, dude. I got like 3 Michael Jacksons. It's funny, I know there's a lot of people with the DS that have Wiis. Dude, it's so funny that you get there's 5 or 6 characters I keep getting variations of.
Yeah.
I get Michael Jackson, Mr. Garrison. I've got 5 of those.
Yeah, I redid Mr. Garrison myself too, because there's certain ways that I think you should be done.
Stormtroopers. Tons of. I got a Lando Calrissian the other day. Did I say about that? I might have to send that one to you.
Yeah, you gotta hook me up with that. That's gonna
we
be
were
cool.
playing baseball on Wii Sports, and I had a friend of mine over.
El Calrissian.
So he's getting. This is the first time he's ever played the Wii, so he didn't know that a lot of the Mii's end up showing up in your lineup.
Oh, that's hysterical.
And so we had a bunch of crazy characters. I had Rod Stewart come up.
Yeah, right.
And then he got Lando, and that's like, oh, hells yeah.
El
Lando's at bat.
with the RBI.
Dude, it was awesome. I like Lando. That's the best part, is seeing who ends up coming up to bat and who's fielding for you.
Oh, and what's funny is mostly me and the wife, we see this all the time when we're bowling. You got little characters in the background bouncing around or something.
Yeah.
And I made Miss Piggy. It's like,
dude, that's who made Miss Piggy. I had her fielding for me that day.
Oh, did you see that? Did you like that?
That's great, dude. That was perfect.
Yeah, I did Miss Piggy.
Yeah, he was calling her names and stuff because she caught his pop fly from him.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that fat pig. I was dying, dude. I was wondering who sent me the Miss Piggy. That's classic.
I got Admiral Akbar on there. I made my own Admiral Akbar. I wasn't satisfied with the ones that I saw popping up on the board, so I made my own. I made a Akbar, so he comes up to bat, and it's like you lose it. It's just hysterical.
That's
great.
That's
and I really
stuff.
hope more games end up adding the Mies to the whole thing.
I think it's priceless, man. Once you get like 100 or so stacked up, you start to get some really great characters.
But I think like WarioWare Smooth Moves, they're going to be incorporating some of the Mies into that.
I hope so.
That's going to be great. But yeah, the figure skating here, they do look like little Mies where it looks like you can customize their clothing and buy stuff for them and their outfits. This is pretty funny.
You know what? You know who I'd like to see in that figure skating? I'd like to see Herbert the child molester from Family Guy in there. That'd be awesome. I still haven't seen him. Don't you have one of those vans tricked out like an ice cream truck?
We're going to go skating today.
You like popsicles? Oh, man.
I got a big one. You can skate on it.
Why don't you reach into my pocket and get your tip for me?
All right,
all right. Okay, we're sorry. We got to make sure we can still mark this as clean,
Yeah, right.
Oh, man. That's some funny action right there. Anyway, yeah, figure skating. It's funny because I really like the free skating in Winter Games back on the old Commodore 64.
Oh, yeah,
but this looks a little goofy. I don't know.
Yeah, this is just, let's just put it this way. This looks a little more in tune to girls. So
Young girls.
Young girls, to put it lightly.
Yeah.
So,
which is good. I mean, I like the concept that they're playing with more diverse concepts. I mean, when's the last time you saw a figure skating game? I'll tell you what they're really whoring out now is vet games and pet management games.
Jeez, yeah. Well, wasn't there one set in Africa?
Yeah,
or something? That from?
It's like My Pet's in Africa. What?
What's that about?
Were you going to bring a jaguar into the vet? I'd get down on that. You forget you don't put the right tranquilizer in. Instead, you give him placebo or something, and you think he's knocked out, and the jaguar comes up and slashes your throat. Now, see, I'd play that.
Yeah. You got to slash the stylus on the screen to defend yourself.
Great.
Block.
It'd be like Panther Cam. Screw X-Men, dude. I want to play a jaguar in a vet. Yeah.
Atari Jaguar on the loose.
Wow.
Hey, they got some new screenshots here from Harvest Moon DS. This looks pretty cool now. I mean, now that they're actually making a full-fledged
you mean
DS
the actual version, not this little crappy version we got shoveled to us?
Not the shoehorned GBA version that we got before, which a lot of people were screaming at us for by saying, that's not GBA. That was made for the DS. Yeah, bull crap, man. I'm sorry, but Rocket Slime was not made specifically for the DS.
Yeah,
originally.
exactly.
And more or less, we got a Harvest Moon that was built to the same caliber. Because obviously, for the fact that we're now getting a full-fledged Harvest Moon that's incorporating 3D effects and just an overall more DS-looking feel to it here.
Yeah, I'm pissed. I bought the first one, too, because I figured the family would like it, and even they don't like it, so that's pretty rough.
That's not good, because that's a family game, man.
Yeah, it's time for me to hork that on eBay. I'll sell the box and the cartridge separate, see how many people pay full price for both of them.
Nice.
Box only for Harvest Moon.
For all you people who have the game but don't have the box, because
I'm selling the box. Buy it now, $34.95.
They might have bought the game for me earlier and would now like to get the box for it. You can buy it separately.
Yeah, rare. Look.
Yeah. L00K.
Yeah, exactly. L at K.
Looks like we got New Zealand Story Revolution coming out soon too. I could never get into that. I think that was more of a European thing,
Yeah, that was a big Amiga. Those were big Amiga titles, the Rainbow Revolution, big 16-bit titles. Yeah. But yeah, like you said, from UK.
Yeah, I remember they had an arcade version and everything. I remember playing.
Did they really?
Yeah, wasn't it? Oh wait, maybe I'm thinking of something else. I might have been thinking of the what's that one game? No, you know what? I'm thinking of the one with the platypus guy with the water. Oh, forget. It was like a little platypus character, and he threw water around. It was kind of a similar idea, I think. I forgot its name offhand.
Yeah, I missed that one.
My classic gaming thoughts have failed me.
That's right. You're getting old, that's why.
Jeez. Anyway.
Yeah. So what else you got in the news over there of interest? I know you've been looking at some of the interesting stuff.
Somebody managed to get their Wii to show up on the Nintendo DS.
Yeah, that's funny, dude. I think they just used a TV tuner on it, dude. Because they have a
most
TV tuner in
likely.
Japan, dude. I mean, how hard is that? Okay, so you plug the Wii into your TV tuner. Who cares?
Sure, it's nothing special, but
No, it's pretty funny, though.
there's a guy who incorporated, this isn't DS related, but incorporated a Nintendo into his NES controller.
That's funny.
That's pretty cool.
How bored you got to be doing that? So. That's pretty. Oh, hey! For those of you who missed out, of course, this is this is one of those news items that's already too late. But I bet if you go and
cutting edge news here.
No, there's for those of you who missed out pre-ordering the new Phoenix Wright.
Ah, yes.
They are giving out the coolest thing ever. They're giving out a
raise his hands. :
It comes with a Phoenix Wright strap, a replacement strap for your DS. It's got Phoenix Wright on it, and the most cool stylus that has a pointing finger at the end
Which I
of
don't
the
think
stylus.
really looks like a finger, but whatever.
It doesn't look like a finger at all, folks. But since we're going to mark this as clean, we'll have to let you decide for yourself what it looks like. Touching is good. Let's just leave it at that. But anyway, so it's only available when you pre-order. Of course, you can't pre-order anymore now because the game is out. However, a lot of times GameStops hold that crap behind the counter and they give it out as perks to their regular customers. So I would definitely walk into your GameStop and say, hey, and when you're buying the game, don't ask for it without buying the game because that's crass. But if you go up and say, hey, I'm buying Phoenix Wright, and I understand that, when they pre-ordered that, they got this cool thing.
I'm sure it's not crass for some of our audience.
I want that Phoenix Wright thing.
I demand it. It's mine.
I demand it.
No. Eric the midget. For those of you who listen to Howard Stern, you'll get that reference. It's exactly what I was going for, dude. I'm glad you got it. I love that. That's some of the best stuff ever.
Scary.
Can I have a date with Kelly Clarkson? I want that Phoenix Wright stylus now. I want the stylus. Stat. I deserve it. Stat.
Nice.
Generation, give me. I want it now.
Yeah, too funny, dude. But anyway, so yeah, ask them when you go and ask nice, and especially if you happen to.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I got a picture of it up on DualScreenRadio.com.
And of course, if you don't like it, you can always pop it on eBay for $30 or something.
Yeah, I'm sure you can sell the crap out of it because it's rare, look, leaked, out of print, whatever.
Yeah, because I think the only special stylus I have is my free pink Kirby one.
I still got that.
From the old DS, which is pretty much useless these days.
Yeah, because you can't put it in your light. So besides, who's going to have a pink stylus in there? But anytime Nintendo of America is giving something away, you got to have it.
Well, that was about it.
That's really sad, They get Game & Watch DS over in Japan, and we get a Kirby pink stylus. Talk about unfair.
Oh, they're getting. They've got what is it? It's a. They got some special. Well, they got this big club over there, which we've already mentioned in the news in the past.
Yeah.
Where you trade. Depending on the games you buy, for the type of system, you get so many points. Obviously, systems like the DS and the Game Boy give you the lower points, whereas the GameCube and the Wii would probably give you more points. So you can turn them in and trade them in for some really cool exclusive items, and they're very limited that you can only get from Nintendo of Japan. Of course, you're never going to see anything like that over here. No. But Game & Watch collection, which had 3 different old LCD Game & Watch games for the DS, was out over there. That commands like $100 on eBay.
Is that insane?
It's crazy. I mean, it's so cool though, man.
It is cool. It's dead on.
I don't think I'd pay $100, but just to have it in the collection to say, hey, look what I have. They've got something else out. I think it's like a. I lost the link, but I did post it on the forum some time ago. What is it? Tingle from Zelda. And I think they've kind of incorporated him with Balloon Fight. Oh man. The Balloon Fight, man. I love Balloon Fight. I thought that was a lot of fun. I like Balloon Fight more than I like Joust, I think. I don't know what it is. But popping the balloons and everything, that would be fun to have on the DS outside of the NES emulation,
Yeah, and there's like a metric ass load. Hey, speaking of which, before I forget about it, a lot of people have been interested in the whole homebrew scene. A huge thing just happened that's very important to everybody, and I wanted to mention it during the show, and I'm glad I remembered it. A lot of people buy into the Nintendo DS flash cards, like the Super Card. I've talked about that in the past. The DS Link. There's a whole slew of them. The problem with the homebrew cards is if you don't buy the most popular one, which may not be exactly what you want because it's slot 2 instead of slot 1. Those of you who are into the homebrew stuff know what I'm talking about. If you don't buy a particular one, then you get left out of a lot of homebrew development. Because most homebrew is written to run on a certain card using a certain library to access the card. So if you want to get like DS Organized, which is basically PDA software for your DS, and I know people who have laid down cash money just to get a flash card just to run DS Organized because they want PDA software on their DS.
That's a really cool little program.
It's a great piece of software, don't get me wrong.
Cool stuff.
And you're never going to see it come out in a commercial cartridge, so the only way you're ever going to do it is to use homebrew. And there's been a huge resurgence in homebrew lately. So I've been getting a lot of emails about people asking me, hey, how do I get homebrew to work on this? How do I get DS Organized to work on that? And there's something new that's come out. It's sort of a universal patching system. And basically it's called like DILI or something like that. And basically what happens is if the homebrew author writes this into their software, there's a universal patcher that has basically plugins for every card out there. So if you've got a DS Link or a Supercard Slot 1, or you've got a Ninja Pass, or you've got one of these other billions of different cards out there, you basically download the homebrew, and then you run this patcher over it for your particular card. And it understands the hooks into this DILI system. So basically, no matter what, you'll be able to run the homebrew no matter which card you have. And the authors don't have to write support in for each one of the different cards.
That's pretty cool.
It's absolutely fantastic. And I'll be honest with you, this is the land-breaking moment in DS homebrew. Having to write for different cards is what keeps homebrew authors from writing software. This is going to catapult and exponentially change the amount of homebrew software that we have for the DS. And that only benefits everybody. So,
nice.
So if you've got the inkling and you're one of these homebrew kind of folks, and I know we got tons of them that listen to the show, go check it out because this is the future of homebrew, and you don't want to get left behind. So that's kind of your homebrew tidbit for this episode.
The whole homebrew scene is getting really crazy lately with these cartridges.
It is.
I mean, it's insane. I cannot even come close to keeping track of half these homebrew devices, that are out there.
Yeah, there's tons of them. There's more coming out every day. And the problem is like I said, stuff doesn't run on a brand new card that runs on this old card that may stick out of your DS, or you want to move to slot 1 or whatever. I'm telling you.
But definitely the DS Organized. I mean, I honestly don't use it a whole lot for myself, in terms of keeping addresses and so forth. But it's a really cool little program. If anything, it's worth it alone just for the file manager aspect.
Oh, yeah, you can go in and move files and delete files and all that stuff. It's really nice.
It's really neat. Now, what would be really cool is if Nintendo really did bring out something like, a Palm kind of interface for the DS, so you could plug it in and, even if it took in your GBA slot or something, or whatever. I mean, anything. Because, even on the Wii, the whole Wii interface, if they could somehow turn that into like a Palm interface.
Right.
Like when you go in the address book and, your messages and all that stuff. So take that real slick GUI and kind of make that into like a Palm-based type of, thing where you have a schedule list, an address book, what to do list, calendar, stuff like that would be really cool. And they could pack it up for like $20, touch series, touch generation.
Hey, did you see that?
Include Opera DS on there.
yeah, please. Did you see the iPod software for the DS?
Yes, I saw.
Dude, is that like priceless or what? Turn your DS into an iPod.
That's hysterical.
It really is.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's more of a shock value thing, though. I mean, I don't know how constructive or functional it is, but just seeing the iPod on the front of the DS taking up both screens, and obviously the touch wheel being on the touch screen.
Yeah. I
mean, that's good. That's classic stuff.
That is classic. I could totally see people getting into it too, though.
Yeah. It's funny. What do you think? Are you any remotely interested? I'm not sure at this point. I think you were, but we also have the Pokemon games coming up in I think April.
Oh yeah, the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know yet, man.
I might try one out just for fun,
Yeah, I may take a look at it. I'm not sure.
And we could trade Pokemans.
Oh yay, we could trade our Pokemans.
That'll be fun. I'm gonna fight you.
Well, hey, you know what? Normally I'd say there's absolutely no chance in hell I'm ever going to look at him, but after like Pokemon Ranger and Pokemon Troze,
Things
a
have
couple of
changed,
games,
man.
I've
The man's
changed.
actually playing Final Fantasy. There's something going on.
Yeah,
over
that's crazy talk. And speaking of Final Fantasy, maybe we should start getting into that review.
there. Yeah, I think that's a good segue to get
I think
into
that's a great
because-
segue. Good for you. Nice job. Nice segue. So yeah, Final Fantasy 3. Chris, do you want to start on this one? I mean, you've actually played it all the way through to the end.
I've actually completed the game at this point. I mean, we like I said earlier in the show, we were so delayed and backed up with real life events that I figured, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to finish this thing, and then I'll be able to give a real nice review, I would think, because I'll be able to play the whole thing. And I was determined, like I said, to get this stupid game done before the Wii came along because I'll get distracted. So I've never really been a big fan of Final Fantasy games. I know
Me neither.
I know you haven't, and I can't wait to hear what you think because of this.
I've been publicly against Final Fantasy, especially in Retro Gaming Radio. I've spoken many times about how I don't like Final Fantasy.
Well, you've been against Nintendo in general.
I have.
For a while there too.
So, hey,
this is a really.
I feel like I'm at the
thing
end
now.
of Rocky IV when he's talking.
I feel-
He's talking to the audience. If I can change, you can change. Everybody can change.
Just
That's
stick
too funny,
together.
All right. Anyway,
Right. Yeah, but if you.
I know. Sorry about
I got
that.
Rocky in my head. It's okay because they've been on recently and yeah. But anyway, the games if anything, I've probably toyed with them a little more than Shane has. I've played back when I had the Super Nintendo system, Super Nintendo rather, entertainment system. We used to rent the games from the local food store. They used to have game rentals for like $1 a night or something, So, and on the weekend they'd have a deal. So I saw Final Fantasy II sitting there at the time. Now, Final Fantasy II on the Super Nintendo, obviously anybody in the know knows that is really Final Fantasy IV in Japan. I don't know. I actually got sucked into this game, for a while there. I mean, it was a rental for the weekend, so of course, being a rental, I was on a time schedule, so I was playing the living crap out of that game all weekend, I was putting in hours and hours and hours. And I obviously didn't get to the end of it, but I did get pretty far in it, I thought. I think I got to, there was an enemy, and I'm always joking about this. There's one of the enemies, and everybody's going to know what I'm talking about, where it's a wall with a face in it. It's a demon wall creature. And I think that thing just kept owning me, to the point where, okay, well, I'm obviously not getting to the end of this game, so I took it back. I just wanted to try it out, and I was really sucked into it. Sometime later on, the PlayStation came around, and what was the big hyped game? Final Fantasy VII. That was the first big game to really show off what the PlayStation could do in terms of, 3D and the artwork and the massive size, which I think is one of the reasons why Square left Nintendo at the time. Nintendo wanted to do cartridge-based format for the Nintendo 64. Because up to that point, Nintendo and Square were hand in hand. All the way from, what was their first big game? Rad Racer. They did that. That was their first big Square. That was from the guy who did Final Fantasy, which is pretty mind-blowing.
That is kind of mind-blowing.
And, that was the first big game I think they did on the Nintendo. And ever since then, they've been best friends up until the PlayStation came along, and Final Fantasy VII ended up on 4 CDs due to the size of the game. And I remember playing that, and what can I say? I got sucked into the hype. I mean, it was new, The whole idea of having a CD game at the time was kind of, it wasn't relatively new, but to have it on 4 discs outside of something like, how many discs was missed on?
Right.
And this was actually interactive. I was like, this is pretty cool. I'm going to check this out. I like fantasy stuff, and this game had Final Fantasy written in it as a title, so it just wasn't really for me. It didn't have dragons. It didn't have, it had swords, but it was more of an industrialized kind of world, and I wasn't really sucked into it. I thought the story was very light. All these people were talking about how deep and amazing the story was, but in reality, to me, it was anything but. It was very light, very fluff compared to some of the games that Shane and I had played back in the Commodore days. This is an era where we didn't have tons of graphics to explain everything. It was more reading involved. like the gold box AD&D games.
Right.
Where I would just literally sit and just I wouldn't even be on the computer. I'd be reading the instruction manuals because remember Ultima? Remember like Ultima 4?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was the cream of the crop, dude. I mean, you got books with runes all over them. You actually came with a what is it? What was that symbol? The Ankh?
The Ankh. That's right, the Ankh.
Yeah. Came with a brass Ankh or something. You could hang around your
Dude,
neck.
that was awesome. I'm sorry, dude. I miss the days when you would buy a box and these velour maps would fall out.
And you knew you were opening a box to goodness, too, because
heavy.
That was a heavy-ass box.
Had Ankhs in there, and it was awesome.
You had a cloth map.
Oh, dude.
And I remember one Saturday. I mean, this was when I was younger. I had nothing else to do. It was a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. It was rainy out. I would sit there and I was translating the runes around the instruction.
See, isn't that
manual.
way cool? Give me the old Infocom and VisiClue system. Where they gave you the books with the hidden writing on it, and you had to use the little decoder to get clues.
That was
cool.
I mean, but the thing, it was funny because, I mean, I don't know why. You didn't even have to do this to enjoy the game. But the game was so deep, and the story and the world was so full of detail that I was sitting there trying to translate all the little runes on the outside of the manual to the point where I wanted to, and they actually spelled words. I felt like the kid from A Christmas Story, And you go, be sure to drink. He's sitting there decoding his Orphan Annie thing. I was sitting there doing that with this stupid Ultima book. But games back then, I mean, just the instruction manual alone, you weren't as involved in visuals as you were as to get the story along as you were with the text.
And they were good. They were good stories. They were quality stories. It wasn't like this half-assed,
Well, she's in the tower. You got to get her. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm getting ready to commit suicide. Oh my God, deep storyline here. Everybody's always talking about this suicide moment in Final Fantasy, I think 5 or something.
Yeah.
It's like a big deal. I'm sure somebody will correct me for that because it may have been 6, but everybody's making a big fuss over how amazing that storyline was. I'm thinking, dude, this is nothing compared to, what we were playing, in these old RPGs. I mean, and that's the thing. Final Fantasy VII, it was all about graphics and beauty, and which nowadays looks, frankly, horrible. I mean, it aged terribly.
Yeah.
It had all that pseudo CGI drawings, and it just does not age well. Not like the hand, anything done with the hand would age. It has no style to it. Everything's just cold, and by the end of this too, I was just kind of worn out of the game, and I put it aside. So, anyway, now we've moved on a little bit of history involved with how I feel about Final Fantasy. Here comes Final Fantasy III, which arguably has no story.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
all.
There's barely enough story to keep you moving from place to place.
Thin. It's paper towel thin.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, you're a towel.
And yeah, it's just leading you from point A to point B to point C, and there's really only one big overlying theme, and it's to collect these crystals to save the world. That's the
whole story.
But you know what? It was fine with me because as much as I really do enjoy reading if it's a good story. Most of these Japanese RPGs that I play have zero story to them. I remember playing Wild Arms, which I had a lot of fun on the PlayStation. The story was basically non-existent. The story that was there to me was very, and I don't mean to sound like a pompous ass or anything, but it was very lowbrow to me in terms of what I was used to playing back on the old Commodore 64 with games like Legacy of the Ancients or Questron,
Yeah.
Or especially the AD&D stuff. I mean, the story. I mean, it was like reading a book while you're playing.
Yeah.
These games are just too light and fluffy for me to say that I can't take it seriously enough. So I was going into this game and I was thinking, all right, well, let me deal with. There was hardly any speech. It was all just basically battles, and getting to point A and point B, which I have to say I had a lot of fun with it. It was a portable game, which really helped because then it allowed me to pull it out at any point I wanted to just get some kind of game time into it.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean,
Square Enix, man, they have nailed the DS down to a T. I mean, look at this. Look at Mario Hoops. I mean, forget Rocket Slide for a minute because obviously it was a leftover from GBA, but they have nailed the DS hardware.
Dude, their developers sleep with and have sex with DS hardware. That's the only explanation possible. Because no one else has it figured out like Square Enix does.
I've got my wang in the headphone jack.
Yeah, that's what did the plug next to a headphone fall.
Yes.
I don't know, dude, but those guys are so on the ball. I mean, I've not been a big fan of Square Enix, to be completely honest with you, because No big fan of Final Fantasy, and that's kind of their signature flagship stuff.
That and then the mana games. Those have been the two big games that they've really been known for. And then Super Nintendo mostly, Chrono Trigger and
which of course are all winners for me because
RPGs and
you know how much
games.
I love Chrono Trigger.
And I know you don't really care for just Japanese RPGs in general. I mean, I know you like RPGs, but you want the real deal. I mean, I agree with you. I like the more American or even basically anything, the Western look. So
I do.
Let's put it that way, the Western look.
And I don't even mind, I don't
RPGs.
mind the Japanese art form. I like it actually in a lot of cases. It's very beautiful, but I need that Western cowboy hack and slash action.
Right.
I need my sword of invisibility. I need my
You need something that's generic for a different reason.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
The generic Japanese artwork is just too similar for me. I'm sorry, I'm not one of these Japanophiles that says, "Oh, I know who this character is," based on, I don't know, whatever. I don't know how you can tell half the time. I mean, it's.
I know. I mean, that sounds so racist, but they all look alike.
It doesn't. It's just.
I don't know.
From what I understand, to go off topic just a tad, I think that's the reason for that, and I've read it in the past, was because one of the biggest influences in modern, or even in the last 20 years, in Japanese artwork and cartooning, and I don't know if it's this guy, so I'm not even going to say his name, but I think it was the guy who created Astro Boy, and what's his name? The little lion guy, the white lion guy. Anyway,
you're asking the wrong guy.
I don't remember his name. But anyway, this artist, he created these characters. He was very influenced upon the original Walt Disney animation, in the style of drawing that they had back then. And if you look back then, they had a lot of big eyes, and their characters just kind of had that more, I don't know, clean look to them that you would see that or as a parent. Anyway, he was very influenced by those. And in turn, a lot of Japanese artists were influenced by him. So a lot of that stuff carried over, and that's why a lot of this stuff looks kind of similar these days.
Oh, yeah.
They've all been influenced by each other. And I guess you just got to be more of an expert than the other. I mean, it's just like if we ask somebody from Japan to come over and say, well, which of these pieces of art did Larry Elmore draw?
Exactly.
Or who Clyde Caldwell? Which of these was done by this particular artist? They wouldn't have no idea, and they would probably
say, is this Disney or is this Don
right.
Bluth?
Or it looks the same to me. So it's probably the same idea.
I'm sure.
I mean, so anyway, that beside the point. The artwork in this game was really cool. Even though the characters were kind of given that what they call super deformed look, you could still relate to them, and it was kind of cute how they did some of the characters within the scale of the design work. And there really isn't a whole lot to say other than you're running around, you're doing randomized battles. This game does have the random battles. This was a game that never made it to America, so this was actually the only Final Fantasy game that never made it to America originally in its first run. And the fact that it came out here now on the DS is kind of amazing at this point. And I think a lot of people are sucked up into the idea of, wow, this is a game we haven't had before. And I can see the excitement in a lot of people, especially with the big fans. And I was always looking forward to playing some kind of RPG-related game on the DS because of the fact you could take it anywhere. I could play it on a crapper. I could play it in bed.
Right.
I'm not going to be glued to the TV.
Right.
I've been playing Zelda Twilight Princess, and you know how hard it is for me to play that. I mean, I think I'm up to about 35 hours or so, but the only problem is I can only play that on my one TV here at the house.
Yeah.
I can't play it at maybe during my lunch break at work for 10 minutes or.
Exactly.
Every time I gotta play that, I gotta be in front of the TV, and for me, that's just very difficult to do because either the wife wants to watch something, or we gotta watch movie time, or she just doesn't want me to be sitting there playing a video game, or we gotta be out and about doing something. I mean, even if we went to the movie theater, I could easily say I'm gonna take Final Fantasy III on my DS and play it before these flash animation commercials you were talking about earlier.
Oh, exactly.
So
I mean,
it's a convenience thing, and a time thing for me. I mean, I'm not 10 years old or 15 years old. I can sit and zone out in front of a game console anymore. It sucks.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun doing that with Bard's Tale and stuff like that in the day. But nowadays a game like this is perfect on the DS for me. And going into it, I got sucked in instantly. I remember Shane was talking about, and he had played the Japanese one early on, right? And you got sucked right into that.
Is that crazy talk or what? Because I'm telling you, folks, I've got I've got a very specific type of RPG that I like. I either like the action RPG, which is your standard hack and slash Diablo-esque, move from one side to the next side.
No brain required.
No brainer, click, 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 slash, level up, top off my mana, top off my health potion.
Or F.
Go back through the gate, kill some more, get some more gold. I know it's crazy. I mean, so most people who are like really big into Final Fantasy, they're like, but dude, that's so repetitive and boring. I like it. I like it. I mean, it's not that it's necessarily brain dead because you have to do management. You have to do management of your product. You have to manage your equipment. I really like, which one was it? Was it Baldur's Gate 2 where you could actually infuse those stones into your swords?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That was awesome.
That was cool
you
stuff,
could actually
man.
generate your own magic. If you had a sword that had these little jewel slots in them.
They stole this from Diablo, obviously.
Well, yeah, of course, but
so,
but whatever. I mean, the
It's
concept
still a
of
cool
basically
idea.
saying if you have a black stone, then that gives your sword the power to steal hit points. Or if you have a black stone, you put in a piece of armor. Anytime a bad guy hits you, it sucks his hit points. It's cool. There's a cool mechanic system to what I call the Western RPG, the hack and slash, the runaround. And I come from, like Chris, the old Commodore 64 days with Questron, Legacy of the Ancients, where there was a story. It was light. And along the way, you got fed a couple of tidbits. But in reality, it was a management system. You can't go to Dungeon X because you're not strong enough. So you have to go around and do, what do they call that? They have a name for that in Final Fantasy, too.
Grinding?
Is that what it's called?
A lot of people like to use the word grinding, where they just artificially power themselves up experience points. Like they'll just rampage around the countryside looking for battles to increase their experience.
Well, and there's some cases where, like in Legacy of the Ancients, for example, when you went into a dungeon, you had to have a certain amount of magic with you because magic was all handled through potions. So you had to have X amount of potions with you if you were ever going to get through this dungeon. Well, potions cost cash. And cash just ain't laying around for you to pick it up. So you had to kill monsters to get seed money. You took the seed money or rob the bank. But see, again, in order to rob the bank, you had to be a badass because every guard in town would come after you. So the only way to legitimately win money was to gamble.
Right.
So you'd go out to the countryside, you'd whack a couple monsters, get a little bit of gold, go play flip-flop or blackjack. Flip-flop was the bomb. And you'd go in there and you'd win a certain amount of money. You'd go buy your potions, and you could go hit the dungeon. It's a formula, and I really, really like it. Unfortunately, Final Fantasy, up until now, that I have seen, the last generations of Final Fantasy. I never played Final Fantasy 1
they're completely
or 2,
different.
But these new ones where it's like every 2 seconds you're stopped for a full-motion video, and if you're not looking at the full-motion video, you're reading text. It's like, blah, 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 blah,
And it's supposed to need text known to man. Oh, and I thought you would never make it.
And it's funny.
Oh, thank you. You're so beautiful.
They don't even scroll it up the screen where you could actually read it like a book. It's got to come in 2-sentence blurbs that require a button click in between it. It's like, oh, it's you.
Right.
B.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's you.
Like you're button mashing to get to the next screen.
And it's like, yes, I finally made it. B.
Yes.
Oh,
B.
I see you come with a sword. B. Yes, I do have a sword. B. It's a pretty cool sword. B. Don't you like it? I got it from this dragon. B. And you're sitting there going, dude, when am I going to get to this? And you can't skip it.
The fire button option.
Yeah, you got to get a controller that has rapid fire so that you could rapid fire through the text. Because for every 700 boxes of dialogue, you only need one thing. At the very end, after you go through all this crap about exchanging how great your sword is, at the end it's like, oh, the princess is in this castle. It's like, oh, well, damn it, you should have told me that at the beginning, and I wouldn't have had to sit here for 45 minutes, waxing about my sword. So I've had a real problem with what I call the button-mashing RPGs, or the RPGs that are just so story-driven. If I was interested in the story, like Chris said, if I was interested in the story, okay, cool. Give me a story like Legacy of the Ancients, where these ancient beings have traveled throughout the universe, setting up these galactic museums for these races to go and visit and learn about the culture and the technology.
Right.
And go. That was the coolest story ever. I could have sat through a whole book of that. But that's cool. But it's like dialogue is there because it has to be. Mm-hmm. I can't stand that. Final Fantasy 3, I'll be totally honest with you, When I first thought about it, I said, there's no way in hell I'm going to play Final Fantasy 3 on the DS. I started watching some videos, and it's like, I better check it out.
Well, it certainly looked impressive.
Well,
so
it looked
worth
great. It's
checking.
like, okay, like Chris, I was jonesing for an RPG. I need something with some depth. Something that I could run around, take 20, 30 hours to go run around and complete these quests. I don't need to have everything spoon-fed to me. I don't need to have a linear storyline. I don't need to have any of that crap. Just let me run around the damn countryside and kill stuff. And I'll be honest with you, that's what Final Fantasy 3 did. And the concept of changing jobs. Well, let's get to some of the mechanics of the game. Now that we've both kind of talked about our philosophy. Let's talk about instead, we already talked about it visually, right? It's beautiful.
It is. It's gorgeous. From the opening intro alone, just to the end credits, I mean, the 3D engines is fascinating. And the little
beautiful.
spells are great. Everything is. I mean, it's one of the best looking games on the DS. So
yeah, if
that's
you want to impress your
problem.
PlayStation Portable toting friends, this is the game you want to have to show off.
I got to tell you, real quick, one of the things I liked about the what am I saying? The artwork, its aesthetic is it wasn't really very Japanesey. You know what I mean? If that's a word. It almost did have a Western look to it to a point. Even the little characters. I mean, I didn't. On one hand, you feel like you're playing a Japanese game, but it wasn't as in your face. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
I totally understand what you mean.
The enemies, the goblins, the dragons, everything looked really nice. I mean, it looked very Westernized.
Yeah, I mean, there were some very Westernized type things. The mermaids, what were some of the other real obvious creatures? The berserkers.
Well, the one was like a skeleton dragon.
Yeah,
I mean, which is right out of what did they call those things? It was like a lich
or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get corrected on our pronunciation back in the forums. So anyway, those are the sort of things that I look for, like in an RPG, and they're mostly, like I said, more like the Western RPGs. But, after picking up Final Fantasy III, I finally decided to give it the go. I got a great deal on it. I got it for $20 or $25. It was absolutely insane. So I said, okay, let's get into this.
Well worth it, man.
Oh, totally well worth it. The battle system, is pretty much what I'm used to. You got a row of guys, and each one have a different job. We'll get to that in a minute. And then there's a X number of bad guys. You basically point to who you want to attack. You say what you want to do. And based on whether it's your turn, their turn, whether they surprise you, you surprise them, you get the idea. That shows who attacks first. There's magical, there's a playback of a magical spell. Sometimes, at random, they'll focus on one of your guys and show them cast the spell close up. Everything just kind of oozes with style. And just like every other type of RPG that I like, there's a real heavy emphasis on leveling up. And leveling up, of course, probably most importantly in the beginning, has to do with keep getting your hit points up. More hit points you have, the longer you can go between visiting the magic fountains or, draining yourself of potions.
Reviving yourself.
That's another.
Yeah, because early on in this game, you're basically dumped into a hole, literally, with nothing but a knife and like the basic armor and hardly any hit points.
Yeah, nothing. Sort of like Lost.
Yeah.
Sort of like Lost in Blue. You basically arrive dead.
Yeah.
Hey, what did I tell you?
That's
pretty much it. But yeah, your first battle you'll fight, within moments of starting the game. Yeah, you'll fight your first battle. They'll throw you in head first, and then, you'll be in this underground cavern, and pretty much every 5 feet you step, there's another battle, and another battle, and another battle, and another battle. Finding your way out of the underground is like your first real quest, so you can get above ground where you're not getting attacked every 2 seconds. And of course, there's everything that you would want in an RPG is here somewhere. You got the overhead map. You've got towns to visit. You've got puzzles to solve on the big map. You've got puzzles to solve in the little map. You got.
And you know what? One big thing I love. I just want to make sure you get to it. The fact that it's got tons of loot. There's tons of treasure chests to find in this
everywhere,
game.
and you got to love that.
Everywhere. And there's some really cool little weapons you can find too, like the what is that called? Is it the there's the one weapon, I think it's called the blood sword.
Something or another, yeah.
Oh, I love it, man. When you hit an enemy and it sucks his hit points and gives them back to you.
That's what I'm talking about.
I love that stuff.
I love weapons with a little bit of character. When I was back in the old days, and I can't remember which one it was, there was actually a game where you could name your weapons. So this goes back
That's
to like
awesome.
the old Tolkien days, where like if you remember,
Glamdring.
like Sting,
The Foehammer.
this is I call this Sting, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, okay, sword. All right, that's kind of boring, right? But if you can have,
Broadsword, bastard sword,
sword
iron
of
sword,
orc killing, there's something cool about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
Arm chopper,
finger loser,
bowel induced, and
yeah, the embowler. Come on, that's like classic stuff here. But anyway, so you can't obviously name your weapons or do anything cool like stick magic items in it. But at the same time, there's the rigmarole of you go into a town, you go to the inn, you look for some information, you go to the store, you see what they've got, you sell them your old crap, you buy the new crap. It's all exactly what I would want in an RPG. You
get to that certain point in the game, you get a new town, which means pretty much automatically upgrade to the latest weapons.
Right. 'Cause you got all this money you've been hoarding.
Yeah, and there's tons of money too. Eventually, it gets to the point where you have so much money that you can just buy whatever you want. I mean, I ended the game with tons of money left over.
Yeah, and there's other things you have to buy. Every time you want to spend the night in an inn and recover, it's going to cost you X number of dollars a night. But
health
really,
potions.
Oh yeah, lots and lots of health potions, especially in the early days before you have a healer on staff.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But by the end of the game, I found that I didn't really use the potions so much. If anything, I was using the higher potions that give you like
500 hit points.
Yeah. You use them a little more. You use them to fill you out between the battles because you want to save your magic points for the battles themselves.
Exactly.
Because with them you can cast multiples over everybody. Multiple health, over everybody with the magic people.
Yeah.
But that's later on once you get to the job levels, because the job levels, which is a really cool little system in this game, because from the beginning you're stuck with the default, which is called freelancer. And I think this is the first Final Fantasy game that really introduced something like this. Obviously you can choose your different types of jobs. In most games you can pick, like in Bard's Tale, for instance. Remember, everything back then was the same way. Thief, wizard, conjurer.
Yeah. For those of you who are not familiar with the term
paladin,
jobs, think classes.
Class, yeah.
It's the exact same thing.
Job thing. Class is cleric, So now you have black mage, white mage, red mage. Red mage can do both fighting and magic, but he's limited in both. He's neither an expert or nor the master of anything.
And he can use both types of magic, but he can never use the higher level magic.
Right. But he never gets all the way up there. And let me tell you, by the end of the game, you're not going to want to use him. You're going to want those big, heavy-duty spells, especially with the healing.
He's good for the beginner, but don't hold on to him.
Now, what's cool is, as you go up, as you beat enemies and you get experience points and level up, you also level up your job level. Your job level has its own little subdivision of experience points, not based on your actual experience points. So everything levels up parallel to each other in their own little category, so to speak. So you don't have to worry about your experience points going to just your hit points or anything, because everything goes everywhere, So it's kind of cool because later on, when you go up, you open up new jobs, and you want to change jobs. What's cool is you're still keeping your experience points at that point, from your health and your hit points and whatever, and your strength. But depending on the job that you take, they can be altered. Obviously when you turn a warrior into a white mage, you're not going to be swinging a sword, for instance, and hitting as much. But on the other hand, you're going to get magic points, and your intelligence level is going to go up, which in turn grants you higher magic points. It's all basic, RPG stuff, Everything's pretty much mathematically figured out, and there's really nothing deep going on other than, upgrading your weapons and getting the proper magic, and that's pretty easy stuff that you do once in a while here and there when you go up to a certain level.
That's kind of a unique thing, because in the classic Western RPG, once you've chosen a profession, once you've chosen a class, you're stuck with it.
Oh yeah.
If you no longer want a thief in your party, you let him go and you start a new character at level 1, and you got to give him a bunch of items that he can carry. It's not cool. In this respect, the only thing that you have to do is, lose the proficiencies. Like if you're a fighter and you've got the most kick-ass sword on the planet and you convert to white mage, you lose the sword. I mean, you still have the sword, but you can't use it.
It's in your inventory.
Yeah, you can't use it anymore.
You can't equip it, obviously, because that class doesn't use it.
And you have to do a certain amount of, I call it retraining, which is basically means that you have to perform a certain number of things, a certain function.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
Before you make the
about
changeover. Right. So for a short period of time, it depends. I thought there was something other than just battles that you had to do. But most of the time it says, okay, you've now converted to white mage, but you don't actually vest until you've performed 5 battles.
Right, it's kind of an initiation fee, so to speak.
Yeah, So basically you have like a null character for the next 5 battles that you have to work with.
Basically you're using defend for those battles.
Exactly. Yeah. You put him in the back row
and you
defend and hope he doesn't get killed.
While he advances to that new job selection. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some very interesting balances too. This is something I found very interesting, and I may just be out of the loop when it comes to like the Japanese RPGs, but this is something you really don't usually see in Western RPGs, is the fact that they've got certain types of items that are very powerful but very rare. I'm not talking about like that rare bastard sword of killing or something like that, but one of the key things that you'll find in this game is you die a lot. At least I do. Now, Chris, I don't think died very much when he played, but I died a lot.
I think I died twice.
Yeah,
no,
you
suck. That. Maybe 4.
You suck.
Yeah, 4 times.
I probably died 4 times the first day I played. But
wait a minute, when you say died, do you mean you actually have a game over screen and everything?
No, I'm talking about like one of your dudes keels over.
Oh yeah, I've had that happen quite a few times.
Okay, so your guy dies, so he's completely ineffective for the rest of the fight. He's ineffective until you can bring his ass back. Now, in a lot of RPGs, your guy's dead. He's dead. You basically go back to your last save point, try it again. In this game, your guys can be resurrected, and you can do that. Namely, by finding these little pools, there's special pools of water that can revive your dudes.
Revivification spirit.
Yeah, okay, there you go. I knew there was a proper name for it. But there's also a pretty rare item called the Phoenix Down, which is like this special feather thing. You can only use it once, and it'll revive your guy in real time. In other words, you can be in the middle of a fight, your guy goes down, he's out of the loop, but then using the Phoenix Down, you can bring him back during the battle.
The difficult thing is, though, you can only find these in treasure chests.
And there ain't very many of them.
During battles, yeah. I think at the end of the game, I ultimately had like 22 of them.
Did you really?
Yeah, because I got to the point where I think I only used a couple of them because you eventually either go to a spring or you find a character. Your white mage will eventually get the power to revive.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. My white mage isn't that high up yet.
Honestly, the Phoenix Down, at first I was like, damn, I wish I had something like that. But eventually, and I'm sitting there saving them because I'm thinking I'm going to need these later on. But in reality, by the time I got to any of the real hard battles, I already had a white mage or something that could do it for me. But it was really strange. I mean, if anything, I only tended to die when you got to the real big boss battles.
I die usually because my mages didn't have good enough equipment, and they were always targeted right away.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's one thing I can never figure out. The whole formation thing. There was like a formation thing where you can put your characters in any way you want. Like, I kept them on default, but I wasn't sure if that really. I was trying to understand what the connection was to if this guy's going to fight first. I mean, other than the fact that he's got faster speed, but then again, like the monk wouldn't, even though he was the fastest, he wouldn't always strike first, in a battle. So I can never figure it out.
Yeah, and it always happens that when you need somebody's at the edge of death and your white mage casts a heal.
Yeah, of course.
The bad guy gets the first attack, and of course he targets your weakest dude, and he's dead. So not only do you lose the guy, the person can't heal him because he's dead. And that guy loses an attack or a move that could have saved your ass. See, that's what always happened to me. That's how I ended up dead, was because it was a bad circumstance or turn of events. And again, maybe like you said, the formation thing comes into play. But I died a lot.
All right.
So,
yeah, I mean, overall, it wasn't the hardest game in my opinion. I mean, I think I had to rebattle a couple of the big boss guys maybe once or twice at the most. And even then, it was only a matter of figuring out what their weaknesses were. Any water-based game in this game based enemy in this game will not be able to handle lightning spells very well. Pretty much it's instant heavy damage to him. If you have, everybody's got their weaknesses. Obviously, fire and ice and all that crap. But usually it was a matter of figuring out what particular enemy couldn't handle a particular type of spell or attack. And sometimes the first time around I would have it wrong, and then I would kind of figure it out at the last second, and I figure, okay, I'm going to load this up, and now I'm going to own his ass. You know what I mean? So I know you had trouble with a couple characters.
Yeah, I don't understand what that was, man.
Salamander
I must have spent like 2 hours fighting that guy, and it was just insane.
It was really strange. So the thing is, in this game, the strategy overall in this game is all in the battles, because depending on the combination of characters and the jobs and the weapons and the type of magic you have and the turns and times that you attack or do a particular command, that is ultimately what's going to win you in this game.
Yeah, it's not just a matter of,
It's almost like a Magic the Gathering kind of thing in a way.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because it really does. It doesn't matter that, you have, a bunch of big badasses.
It's almost mathematical,
It is. I mean, there's got to be a formula, because I had,
for sure.
And there's a couple of things that, let me tell you something, folks. Read the frickin' book, because I played like the first 10 hours of the game without having looked at the book. And the book clues you in on a ton of different things. I didn't know that you could use staffs.
Right, I remember having to tell you that.
And I'm like, are you serious? I can use staffs? So I'm sitting here like using
fire guy. Wasn't it the salamander character, and you were getting your butt owned by this guy?
Yeah, and once I figured out I could use staffs, it was only a couple of battles it took me to beat him. And it's like, you know what, this sucks. I could have made it a lot farther a lot sooner had I not gotten my ass kicked like this.
What threw me off at first was when you're in the battle and you're picking your little options down there, attack, run, defend. I didn't realize you could actually scroll up and down a little more than I thought. And if you push up, you can choose from your staff weapon. You could equip two different staffs to your warrior. I mean your mages.
Yeah.
Then your mage, especially your white mage, isn't kind of just sitting back on the back,
doing nothing, waiting to heal.
Right, but instead she's using a staff, or he's using a staff that can maybe attack with lightning or fire or ice. That can at least do a little bit of damage, even if it's not ultimately the best.
At least help out. Physically. Carry your weight.
Yeah, but even if a guy's hitting for like 1,000 hit points and your mage is only hitting for like 200 with a staff, at least it's something. Yeah, and in this game, getting the enemy beaten is sooner done.
Yeah, better the sooner it's done. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was pretty funny, because it definitely, in this book, the book was very nice, well done.
Oh yeah, it's a nice heavy book. You pick up the cards and go, hey, nice. You pick up the box. No, it's like, hey, that's pretty neat. Yeah. It's not, filled with a bunch of fluff crap. It actually has a decent book behind it, which is, that got bonus points for me as well. Just I should have looked at the book. I would have been better off. I thought, hey, I'll look at the book sometime.
But for any of the Final Fantasy fans out there, I'm sure you've probably already played this game by now. But you've got your typical Final Fantasy things. You've got the chocobos in there you can find. A lot of the spells are very similar. You got Phoenix Down, which is the token healing spell in the game that's all throughout the series. But I think ultimately the thing that we like the most about this game, compared to something like, now there's no way tomorrow we're going to run out and buy like Final Fantasy 12 or Final Fantasy 11, because the games are done so much differently these days, than they were back when this game had come out originally. I think this game came out like circa 1990 or something like that. 89, 90 in Japan. And back then it was still the old kind of RPG fashion sense going on. We didn't have cutscenes, we didn't have big, huge, CGI graphics and, what do I want to say, like big cutscene intros, all that nonsense. This game was this game's very low key. And in that sense, it's very retro. So I think that's why we were attracted to it a little more than something, one of the newer, alliterations of the series would have given us. So, I definitely loved it. I really got into this game. I was just heavily addicted to it. I think my end game time ended up being somewhere in the 20-something hour range or something like that. I think that's right. I can't remember. But after you beat the game, you get to be dropped off right where you left off after you've beaten it. So you can go back and look for. There's lots of little extra dungeons that you don't have to do, but you can dig up ultimately at the end of the game. It's got a bestiary you can fill up. For every time you kill a monster, it goes into the bestiary, so you can go back and review the pictures and the stats and the specs and their weaknesses and their advantages. And so that's kind of a neat little nifty extra. And all the little secrets that you may have missed originally in the game, you can now go back and check out. And I had a lot of fun with it. I know a lot of people were downing it in reviews because you couldn't save in the dungeons. Ultimately, I didn't have a problem with this because I found out that the reason they were upset that they couldn't save in the dungeon was if they died, they had to restart the dungeon more or less, or the last save point. Right. And usually your last save point was before you went into a dungeon,
Yeah.
Or even if you got to a dungeon, you'd say, oh, wait a minute, I'm in a dungeon now. I didn't realize I was going into a dungeon. You'd leave and then save and then go back in, if you were smart. Especially at the end of the game, which I don't want to spoil, but you're talking 2 hours plus game time where you're not going to be able to save the game at all. So, yes, that was excruciating. There was a point where I almost didn't think I was going to save the game because there was no way I was going to sit there and be able to invest 2 hours per chance to beat this game at the end.
Yeah.
Because you were in the overworld, and then ultimately the dungeon at the end was a 2-hour experience. Sure, you could do a quick save, okay? But that doesn't mean you're going to die 5 minutes after you've come back into the game. A quick save is more or less a hard pause in the game. It's sort of like when you close the lid on your DS and you come back, you open the lid, and your game's resumed.
Yeah.
Except in this case, you can actually shut everything down and restart where you were.
Right.
The problem is once you restart from that quick save, that's it. You're in the game, and if you shut it off, that quick save is no longer available. You're going to go back to your hard save.
Exactly.
Which is,
the quick save is a one-shot deal.
Right. And that's one of the complaints, that people could only do the quick save in the dungeons. They couldn't do an overall save. So, and I could understand it to a point, but it was only till I got to that last dungeon. Because most of the dungeons are pretty short and sweet. You'll run through them, and what's nice is your character can run and walk. I found myself running the whole time. There's an option in the options. There's an option in the options that allow you to turn run on constantly, so you don't even have to hold the button down. So I just ran through the dungeons, but I wanted to make sure I found every chest, because I love finding chests in these games, especially when they're hidden behind walls and so forth. And for the most part, it was money, but then again, you'd find a lot of Phoenix Downs, or later on in the last dungeon especially, you'll find new weapons. There's some really nice new weapons at the end of the game that a certain job you may have not used for a few hours that you figure is obsolete can now find and use a weapon later in the game that now makes him probably the strongest character in the game. So it's pretty wild. There was a character that normally I would have said, well, this guy's probably better, but I found a weapon that only that job class can use, the Knight, that ended up making him even stronger than a higher class job. So it's really wild. There's a little bit of micromanaging going on like that. But you don't find out about it until you get there. And, your job and levels knock out at, they top out rather at 99. So once you reach there, there's not much more to do other than possibly change jobs. Like a monk, for instance. You can upgrade him to a black belt or a ninja.
Nice.
But later on, it's almost like an afterthought, because by the time you get that ninja, you're pretty much at the last dungeon. So there's really not much room to improve that character class unless you continue playing after you've beaten the game. But overall, I don't see too many flaws with this game. The mechanics of it especially, everything is well done. I guess one thing that was kind of annoying was that the top screen is rather useless. It was one big black top screen. No interaction whatsoever, unless you're in the overworld or you're in your inventory. But when you're running around a dungeon or a town, is it a town? I don't know if it does it in a town. No, it does.
Yeah,
it's a black screen
in town too.
I don't understand. The screen is still on, so I don't understand why they couldn't have at least given you your character stats or anything up there.
Right, something.
It was a big waste. So that's one thing I thought could have been done a little better. The touching aspects of it are completely useless. You can use them, but ultimately clicking the button is a lot faster than tapping through the menus and everything. I found the menu system was just so much easier to breeze through. The battle system was easier to breeze through just by tapping a button rather than getting your stylus out and clicking.
Oh yeah,
on
it's
things.
definitely one of those things where it's like, yeah, we'll go ahead and make it touch available, but why bother?
But it's funny how it's really not even. You would think it would be, but it's really, the buttons are a lot more intuitive than using a touch screen. And it's almost like it was just thrown in there because they could do it more than
Which is really a shame.
It wasn't anything. Yeah.
But
anyway, overall, I guess to wrap this up a little bit, I mean, you could probably discuss this game all day. But, coming especially from a retro standpoint, the game is a lot of fun. I enjoyed it immensely. It's highly recommended. I'm giving it a huge stylus up.
Absolutely. Stylus up here as well. And this is coming from someone who doesn't like Final Fantasy. So I guess, at all. So I guess what I'm saying is if you're a diehard modern Final Fantasy fan, you might want to get some other people's input, maybe borrow the game, maybe.
It's going to be a step backwards for them.
This isn't going to be the kind of game you're looking for. If you're an old school Western RPG guy like us, and you're saying, Final Fantasy, it's kind of not my gig, same thing applies to you. You need to go and check it out, watch some videos, look at some reviews, because this isn't your little brother's Final Fantasy. This is more like your dad's Final Fantasy. And that works for me because I'm the dad.
What's nice is the game starts out relatively easy, I think, and it eventually does ramp up a little bit. But overall, the game is completely finishable. I mean, I've never finished a Final Fantasy before, and here I did it, within... I mean, it took me a few weeks and everything, almost a month to do, but I did it, And I guess there's not really much else to say about it. I really enjoyed it.
It's a shame.
It's expensive. It's one of the higher priced titles. But when you're getting over 20 plus hours worth of game time, and this doesn't include, I was not the type of person that, I don't think I ran around really at all to build up experience points or anything. I mean, some people will sit and spend hours doing that. But if you just play the game straight through, and it's a very linear game, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, but it still doesn't take away from its fun. But if you play it straight through like that, you're looking at least mid-20 range hours in gameplay. So I'd say that's fully worth the $40 price tag. Even though it is an older game, so you're going to find a lot of stuff that probably isn't as up to date. I mean, you're talking about a retro RPG here, and I guess there have been some advances made. So you got to keep that fact in mind. That you're looking back a little bit. This is a remake. Again,
if you're falling into one of those diehard factors, those diehard factions, one way or the other. Do a little research, do your time, because it is a big investment. It's $40, unless of course you can get it on sale like we did, which I doubt that'll ever happen again.
Unless you want to go to EB or something and get it pre-owned for the same price.
Yeah. What the hell, man?
But the thing is, real quick. I think the big advantage to me for this game overall was, like I said, portability. I would never have been able to play this game on the TV because
no way.
I can't play this type of game on a TV. Even though I played it on the DS, playing it on the TV would bore the heck out of me. But playing it on the DS just made sense more. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Dude, no, it's not hard to explain. I felt the same way about the Sim games. The Herbs was the same way. Anybody who's read my review, if I'm sitting at a computer or sitting in front of the console, there's a billion other things I could be playing other than this.
Exactly. Just like the TV. There's a billion other things you could be watching or doing on the TV.
Yeah. So, but this sort of thing works out when you're on the go and you have nothing else to do. It's a great time killer.
Plus, you're not sitting in one place necessarily either.
Yeah, exactly. So there you have it.
Perfect.
There's our Final Fantasy III review for you. And, of course, as always, head to dualscreenradio.com, visit our discussion forums.
www.dualscreenradio.com.
www.dualscreenradio.com.
Yes.
This Sunday. No. I remember that when I just edited the last show, I remember we did that monster truck thing again. It always cracks me up. They actually did that. Okay, let's have a quick segue before we move on.
Story time?
I was dying. Yeah, okay, this is a little story time, but I'm not going to play the music. I'm not going to play the music because this is like a 30-second story at best. In that night at the museum, that movie I was telling you about earlier,
right?
The first night that he's in there and he has like nothing to do and he finds the PA system.
He does that?
He does all this crap and he's like singing karaoke crap into it and he's singing Eye of the Tiger and stuff. I was dying. But then he does that, dude. He does the whole monster truck thing. I just started cracking up because it was just what we were talking about this last show. Anyway, there's your segue. That's a pretty harsh story. You have to jump a lot of ponds to get that to relate to dual screen radio. But what the hell, it's funny anyway. So, okay, well, the rest of the show we want to talk a little bit about what's going on the websites, what we're kind of working on. A lot of people have asked us, is Dual Screen Radio going to incorporate Wii stuff? And obviously, as you've heard this show, we have brought up the Wii. We've mentioned it in passing. We've talked a little bit about some of the culture around the Wii and the DS. And especially when DS and Wii connectivity starts getting more prevalent.
When they do what you love to do, converge.
When we start seeing something like that happen, of course we're going to talk about it here on the show because we can't help it. The Wii has become a big part of our gaming lives. At the same time, we don't want to dilute the show. We don't want to dilute covering the Wii and covering the DS and trying to make it some full merge. Because right now,
spread ourselves thin either.
Yeah, I mean, right now there's it's slow enough on both systems where you could say, yeah, there's only a couple games that came out for the Wii this month that are worth talking about. But I'm telling you, there's going to be an explosion. The DS is already seeing it. We're already having trouble keeping up with the sheer amount of DS stuff that's coming out in our databases. Times change at the drop of a hat, the release dates. So we're finding it really hard to keep up with, the DS database. So that's one of the reasons why we're starting to use editors. We've got 4 or 5 guys that own like 3 or 4 games apiece in our database that they can go in and make sure everything is up to date. If there's a problem with the data, they can jump in and fix it. They have the power to do that. So we're trying to delegate a little bit more of our workload to some of our more trusted listeners and to some of our longtime listeners and friends. And that's going to have to expand as we get more and more busy. So we decided instead of merging Wii content into Dual Screen Radio, instead I went ahead and bought a domain called We Play Radio. I've set it up. I basically cloned the DSR site. Everybody should be comfortable with it. It's, like I said, it's a direct mirror. Only all of the data around it is Wii related.
Wii oriented.
It's Wii related.
Yeah.
If you want to see the top 10 Wii games, you can see the top 10 Wii games. If you want to add it to your own list, you can add it. You want to trade Wii friend codes, you can do that. So we're trying to set it up to where you're completely at home. It uses the same login, blah, blah, blah. But it's all Wii related. And at some point in time, should the timing allow us and we get to a point, we'll go ahead and we'll start a Wii radio show.
Yeah, right off the bat. I mean, the fact that you can enter the Wii codes, the Wii friend codes, is really cool.
Oh, yeah,
I love that whole system.
We've been a
fantastic.
complete slut doing that. Everybody at Dual Screen Radio that owns a Wii is in this system now.
Everybody who's got a Wii needs to jump in on it. It's a lot of fun, especially when you set your Miis to mingle and you can get some of the parades going on and everything.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And eventually, obviously the DS, well, hopefully, will be involved in the Wii. And hopefully we'll get maybe some downloads or something, or just in general games. I think the first game that's actually going to do it may be the Pokemon game for the Wii. I think we're going to have some minor DS connectivity. So that'll be worth talking about, obviously.
So, yeah, we'll be talking. There'll be some crossover stuff. And we're going to handle the Wii thing, the Wii news, the exact same way as we're handling DSR news. So make sure you're visiting the site, WePlayRadio.com, DualScreenRadio.com, because that's where we're going to move all of our insight into the news, is to those areas. We're going to be posting pictures. We're going to be putting links. We're going to be expanding our news and information on the site. So you're going to want to definitely check that out.
Yeah, we're going to do our best.
Yeah, and there's so many news feeds. It's really hard to say, well, why should I go watch DSR or WePlay when there's like 7 billion other news feeds? Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm just like everybody else. I'm a news whore. I've got a Google homepage. I've got like 17 different DS and Wii RSS feeds on the screen, and that's kind of how I sift through information. But let's be honest. I mean, let's see. Hang on a second. I can tell you my point. I can illustrate my point. I'm going to bring up this, and let's see. On 4-Color Rebellion, that's one of the places that I hunt for news. Of the items that are on here, okay, I got it set to show me 5 news items.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
Right? Okay, so what do we have in here? We've got the new SSX Blur vid, the new video. Okay, that's worthwhile. What's on the shelves this week? Okay, I already kind of know that. Image of the day, a handheld NES. Don't care. Ghostbusters game, wishful thinking. Don't care. Well, I kind of care. I want news. I don't want, wouldn't it be cool if there was a Ghostbusters game? Dude, I can post that. And then games you missed in 2006, well, guess what? I've managed to keep up. I don't need to know the games I missed in 2006. Right? So you start looking at each one of these and you're going, let's see. New York bill to impose limits on racial, religious violence in games. Okay. Useful, but not worth my time when I'm trying to find news for the Wii and the DS. A trip down the controller memory lane. That's in one of my other Wii news feeds. It's like, okay. So, what's my point? My point is, there's a lot of news sites that's what they do. That's their whole thing. So they report on anything. If Shigeru farts into the wind, they're going to post about it, right? Anything. I mean, let me see if I can give you another one here. Let's see. THQ gains UFC license. Well, first of all, that's tragedy. But is that news that I'd like to report to you guys? No. European Christmas sales data. Okay, it'd be an interesting read, but is it something I'm going to want to? Is that generally informative information? No. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going through all of this different information. It's like, okay, 90% of my listeners wouldn't give a rat's ass about 90% of the news I'm looking at.
Here's just one story here. I mean, I showed you this earlier. It's a news item, but it's not really news. Gamer babies need hot accessories too. And, with the baby in the Nintendo blanket. I mean, come on. It's almost like, putting news in there for the sake of putting news in there, on any given day. So
I guess my point is, we are going to struggle to give broad, interesting news. Not every possible news bit. We're not going to report on every single homebrew game that comes out or homebrew title, unless it's really, really cool and does, set some new standard. We're not going to tell you, hey, new version of
like DS Organized quality.
Yeah,
or something.
the thing I talked about earlier, the DSLI thing, that's important news. That's something that I would want to post. I knew we were going to talk about it today, so it was no big deal. But those are the sort of things that are generally necessity news. You want to know that. The problem is you need somebody like us to filter through this stuff for you. Sure, is it interesting to see the Nintendo blanket? Yes. Is it crucial news that I think would be something I would report here or on the site? No. So hopefully, if you're like-minded as we are, that you will find our news to be more concise, to the point, and more specific information, not talking about, hey, let's look at the history of controllers. So anyway, that's where we're going with that.
I understand what you're saying.
Right now, do you care that THQ got the UFC license? Not really. Do you care if a UFC game is coming out? Well, yeah. Especially if it's coming out for the Wii. They could have bought the license and never put out a Wii game. What do you care? Or a DS game. What do you care? You don't. They got the license. So what? If they're not going to make any games for the DS or the Wii, who cares?
Right.
Right? So there you go. That's kind of what we're talking about. Yes, we know you have a million different news feeds you could watch. Why should you watch one more? Well, I'm hoping as time ramps up that we will be the best quality feed. Short, simple, concise, not fluffing you up with a bunch of crap. There you go.
Yeah, a little more concise is exactly what I would like. Because, like you said, I mean, I have the Google homepage too, and I look through these little news items, and some of them are just inane. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's some goofy stuff that has nothing related. It's almost like they're on the very edge of trying to find something game-related or DS-related or whatnot. That it just doesn't make enough sense to have a whole full-fledged news item about it. So.
Yeah. And then you get caught up in reading all the comments from these goofy kids. Yeah. We're not going to do that. You're going to be able to see not only my outlook on it, but also Chris's outlook. And that's why you come here, is to hear our opinions, right? So why would you want to sit and read through, because you get caught up in that stuff. That's like watching soap operas. If you go to like Four Color Rebellion and you pull up a news item, you have to read the comments. It becomes part of the story. And sometimes that's entertaining, but most of the time you get pissed or you get all caught up in it. We're going to give it to you quick and easy. Yeah. We're going to give it to you quick and easy. Okay, well, that's enough of that. All right, so anyway, that's kind of what's going on. Again, we're hoping now that the holidays are over, we're going to be able to resume our regular schedule. Obviously, as you can see, we've put out 2 shows pretty much, kind of back-to-back, kind of give you guys a little filler for, a couple of months that we were down. I'm hoping that things will kind of level out a little bit here, and we'll be able to get you more stuff quicker. Even if the shows are a bit
hopefully things won't be too bad. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what kind of schedule we're going to have at this point. I think that's still kind of up in the air, isn't it? I mean, I guess
it's still up in the air, but I'm hoping that we get some sort of
maybe like
semblance of order
two
back.
a month or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, not necessarily every 2 weeks, but hopefully 2 a month. We'll see how that works.
See what happens. Hopefully, I mean, the thing is, it's a matter of also playing these games too. We have to find the time to play the games to even review them. And there's just so much stuff to do with these games, and I mean, it's easy to say, "Oh, you're distracted by the Wii." Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, there's some distractions.
Of course, who wouldn't
there's a
be?
lot of other things distracting us at the moment too. So,
yeah, especially like I said, around the holidays, not a good thing. You know, for those of you who've ever had a new baby in the house, and Chris is going to know what I'm talking about. It's just insane, you know, especially around the holidays. Everybody wants to come over. Oh, let's see the baby. Let's see the baby. Can we stay over at your place so we can have more time with the baby? And it's like, oh, great, I'm not going to get a damn thing done. And sure enough, I didn't get a damn thing done for like 60 days. I got nothing done. Hell, some of my bills didn't even get paid because I didn't have time to pay my bills. It's crazy time.
Yeah. But, we hope everybody sticks with us, and we appreciate the support and the listening viewership we're getting. And
I do recommend, again, I know I sound like a broken record, go to our discussion forums. If you need more of the show, more of the type of information we give on the show, if you need to get your little fix between shows, I know how it is. Trust me. You need that fix, and you're tired of waiting, you want to get some info. Dude, go hang out in the discussion
tons of cool
forums.
people there. I mean, even if you don't agree with certain people, at least they're intelligent people to disagree with. I mean, there's at least they're putting their point across at some degree that even though you won't agree with them, maybe you could see where they're coming from, and and usually everybody's pretty level-headed, so.
Yeah, because we kick off the people who aren't level-headed.
Yeah, but I mean, as long as you're not trying to sell Motorola cell phones, from the UK or something.
Yeah, oh my God. Please don't sign up if all you want to do is post to sell Motorola cell phones. That's been a real bad thing.
You'll be on there for less than like 10 minutes, so we're pretty good at that.
Yeah, as soon as one of the moderators catch you, you'll be banned for life. So,
but overall, I mean, I'd highly recommend checking out the forum, and of course, www.dualscreenradio.com.
Absolutely, and don't forget, if you've got a Wii, go over to WePlayRadio.com and get the exact same kind of service that you've expected from Dual Screen Radio's website. Get that.
And of course, if you have anything to add to the database, if you see something, I mean, I know for a fact there's a couple games, especially import titles, that are in heavy, drastic need of like descriptions or any kind of information. There's a lot of people who want imported titles put up there, but they have no information whatsoever about them. And some of them are really strange games. And if you can even supply just the fact that it had, one cart wireless, or how many players, or does it use the touch screen, anything, a description, feel free to either email it or in care to the website there, or just in general post it on the board. I mean, we have a sticky for imports, for instance, but please just put it anywhere. I mean, we'll try to get it updated. I mean, I like to try to, I mean, if anything, if I'm a little slow to add a game from the import section, I'm more likely to update its information. I always like to update the information. I don't like having a half-assed database entry. It drives me crazy. I hate just adding the box art and then the name of the game and the company. I mean, if you can fill in any of the details, and I know there's some games out there that could really use it, I'd be really appreciative. Because there's a lot of people, I'm sure, who are looking through these import games and thinking, wow, this looks kind of neat. I wonder what this is about, but have no information whatsoever about it. I've found quite a few games thanks to some of these guys in the forum, that have import games that would, forum people like Cyberfox, Caladron, those guys are really into the import scene, and always discovering stuff.
That's a good point. We've got some heavy duty posters. There's some people.
We really appreciate the little things you guys are doing. With especially Cyberfox always gets the game art in there like right away, even though. He's just finding it in other spots. I mean, there's spots that I may have not have gotten to find them myself, that just posting them in there and the links to them are really helpful in getting the database up to date.
Yeah, see, and that's again, like I said, there's a certain amount of value in getting a concise feed of information versus having to trudge through 700 things. The fact that Cyberfox hops up and posts these boxes saves us tons of time from having to go out and find these damn things. Even though eventually, going through all of our news feeds, we'll eventually find it, it's very helpful for us to have these direct feeds of information. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. That's great.
And we've got, like I said, we got some industry leaders that hang out in our forums. You wouldn't know it because they're not going to advertise, hey, I work for Nintendo, or hey, I work for Sony, or hey, I work for so and so. But you'd be amazed over the course of the last 8 years with Retro Gaming Radio, we've made a lot of friends in the community, and a lot of those people hang out at our forums. They may not always talk, but you'd be amazed at what some of these people pop up with.
Yeah.
So, again, the forums are a cool
thing. I love
thing.
the forums. I mean, it's you go in there, and that's my first.
It's part of
the
my
first place I
it's
go.
like having a cup of
I get up in the
coffee.
morning, I check my email, and I head right to the forums just to either read or post or whatever. And like
Absolutely.
I said, sometimes you don't always agree with somebody. It's I don't know. It's
We keep it simple.
I mean, you got to keep it
For the most
civil.
part.
I mean, but it's a lot of fun. So if in between the shows, check it out. And like I said, if you're trying to sell, black behind the scene, what do they call that? What do they call black market items? Please stay off the forum.
Black scene, I like that.
Oh,
We should
I have no idea what I'm saying.
I know. It's late in the show, folks. What can we tell you? We've been droning on for almost 2 hours, so.
Yeah, I guess we're not going to get that streamlined show that we wanted.
Yeah, well, that's okay. We've taken the people out
Right.
for a couple of months now. Oh, hey, before I forget, I keep forgetting that it's been so long since we've done a show. One of the cool new things on the website, and I got to point this out to people. One of the biggest complaints is, well, at least I thought it was a problem, is when you would go in to say one of your Wi-Fi games. Let's say you go into the Wii section and you enter in your Wii code and you go find other people's Wii codes so that you can add them and mingle. Well, the problem is you never really knew for sure if that other person added you or not. So while you're waiting for them to add, you're sitting there going, well, has he added me yet? Has he added me yet? Does he know that I added him? So what we saw was a flood of posts saying, hey, I added everybody tonight. Can everybody go add me? And then you get these PMs. Oh, dude, I added you. Can you add me? And it's like, well, there's got to be a better way to do that. So what we did is we came up with a method where your page, you have a personal edition of your game page. In other words, if you go to the Wii friend codes and you add somebody, there's a checkbox that you can say, I've added you. And every time you add somebody, you check them off. I added this person, I added this person, I added this person. That stays in your profile.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I love this.
When another guy logs in, he sees his own profile and he sees his own list. And then if somebody has added you, but you haven't added them, that item will be in a different color. So if I've added Chris, but he hasn't added me, when he logs in and looks at the Wii friend codes, he'll see Shane R. Monroe, and it's in red, meaning, hey, add him, you dumbass, he added you. Likewise, if you add somebody and they have not yet added you, they show up in yellow. So everything's kind of color coordinated now, so you know, okay, who do I need to add, who's added me, blah, blah, blah. So it's really cool. I haven't seen it anywhere else. I'm sure somebody will steal it now that, I've made it public, because I can't see doing this any other way now. But in any event, so that's something I wanted to make sure everybody knew about. It really, really refines the Wi-Fi code trading process considerably. So
it's a fantastic system, and it's something
very
that
cool.
I was hoping somehow would get on there, because it is hard to tell who have I added and who have I not.
You don't want to boot your DS and scroll through your list to see who.
But
you've
even
added.
the Wii, I mean, when I was adding Wii codes in there, it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And now you know who's added, and who added you. It's great.
It's neat stuff. It's fun just to go in there and see who's added you.
It's great stuff.
Well, Chris, I think we're about done.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Obviously we've kind of changed the format a little bit this episode, so I'd be interested, or I'm sure Shane would as well. We'd both be interested to hear what you think. If this is a little more to your liking, I mean, originally the idea was to maybe do like a 90-minute show or something, but I think because we've been out so long, this one kind of overextended itself. But granted, there's no touch and go in this show and no coming attractions, whose dates have always changed anyway. By the
right,
time
exactly.
It's ridiculous. So I'm not. Certain things aren't missing. Are missing only because we just didn't really have anything great to do this week. But I mean, we've got mail, but it's nothing that we really think is worthwhile in Mail Sack, and especially since we've been out of the loop a little bit, we haven't got as much mail. But and then story time, if something good comes along, we'll be sure to talk about it. But a couple features are still with us. We're just not using them in this particular episode. But
give us some feedback. Let us know.
Give us some feedback and let us know what you guys think. I mean,
we'd like to know.
It's funny because we have that special edition 45-minute show, and it's like it's not long enough. And then we put out something like for 2.5 hours. It's too long. Shorten it. Well, what do you want, man?
What do you guys want?
How about DSR Lite?
DSR
Light.
Get it? You're a very funny guy. I like you.
Where you can choose between a long or shorter edition.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, don't give him any ideas, dude. I don't want to record 2 shows. All right, guys. Well, I guess that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Dual Screen Radio. This is Shane Armonroe.
And this is Chris Henschel. And hopefully we'll see you soon. And listening is good, yes.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.